Welcome to the December 11th meeting of the Weare Board of Selectmen. If you will please rise with the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to start off tonight. I recognize Bruce Fillmore, who's our clerk of the works for the Highway Garage project, who's going to give us an update on that.
Hey, as you know, the building's running a little over our estimated timeline. They were getting close. The big things to finish up inside are the overhead door operators, 2 tracks on 2 doors, and the heating system. The overhead door guy is having health issues, but he's getting it done as fast as he can. They put 3 tracks and springs up today, and they should finish the balance of those tomorrow, so it'll be ready for operators. He knows it's got to be done for the end of the week. The heating system guy pretty much got the same issues, having health issues, but they've had 3 guys working there today. They're trying to get the heat on for the end of the week. It's all painted except for a little touch-up painting. The office floors, initially they weren't going to have anything done to them, but the contractor saved a little money in the concrete budget, so I actually had someone go in and polish the office floors, polish the concrete. So you can just about see yourself in the concrete in the office section of the building, which is nice because it seals the pores, so now it's easy to clean, easy to sweep, easy to maintain. The interior doors are, except for 1 or 2, are all hung. The glass, there's a couple glass windows, one from Benji's office to look out into the shop, and one from the receptionist to deal with customers through that they're in the process of installing. The kitchen's all installed. The appliances are there. All the electrical outside, the gas pumps, all the controls have been moved over to the building. That's all put permanently back up where it belongs. I got the transfer station pipe all buried today, so the transfer station water is now going through the building out of the new well. So that old dug well is all disconnected, all ready for Benji to do whatever he wants to do with it. That got done today. The tank is being sealed either tomorrow. If the guys that seal it, they also do foundations, so they'd rather work inside on a day like tomorrow, so I think they're gonna go do that tank tomorrow. If they don't, it'll be done Wednesday. It took a little time. They went up to do it 2 weeks ago. No one had bothered popping the cover off the tank before they went. And they take the cover off the tank and there's 3 inches of water in it, just from water that got in on the floor and ran into it because the tank was put in at a fairly early stage. So it took a little time to get it all dried out, so it was suitable to coat. The water treatment system is going in on Wednesday. So when the building's all set, the water treatment system's will all be up and running. There's no the outside silcox, the faucets, that stuff doesn't go through the water treatment system. Those taps come off the water main before the treatment system, so that they won't be treating water they wash trucks with, which don't need to be doing. So it's coming right along. I mean, there's 10 or 15 guys there every day now for the last couple of weeks, and there will be this week until to get done. The electricians have been pecking away at things. They've got, all the lights are up. They've got a few outlets to get tied in. They've got a couple outlets they missed in the kitchen there's 2 microwaves in the kitchen. There's a spot for 2 microwaves on opposite sides of the kitchen, so they missed one of the outlets for a microwave, that type of thing. The ceiling tracks are all up for the ceiling grid for the suspended tiles everywhere in the whole office section. They just gotta put the tiles in. They gotta put the heat diffusers in. I think some of them went in today. They'll finish them tomorrow, so they can get all the suspended ceiling in there. It's really just, the fire extinguishers are in. It's a matter of getting bits and pieces put together here to finish it up.
Aiming for the end of the week?
Really aiming for the end of the week. Yeah. All the plumbing fixtures are in place, all hooked up.
Now, is the furnace actually in
The boiler, the
boiler.
tank is in, the boiler's, I don't know if the boiler's in place yet. They had to do a whole bunch of piping to tie in the overhead, to tie in the heat loops that they've been working on. I think they finished that up today. I didn't make it up there this afternoon. I went by there Saturday. They've been working, last week they worked till midnight every night. They worked Saturdays. At this point, it's costing the contractor money because the general conditions clause isn't a percentage, it's a flat fee based on the construction time that they had, and it includes things like temporary heat and things like that. So that's coming out of their pocket to keep this thing going. So they're anxious to get it done too, because it's costing them money, which is good. That gives them some incentive to get it done.
questions, anybody?
There haven't been any change orders or anything?
No, we haven't done a single change order. There was some money we saved, there was some things we saved some money on that have helped offset some of the additional things that we've done.
Are there any other additional things that you haven't mentioned?
Not that I'm aware of.
Do you know how much dollar-wise we have left over? Or
We're not there yet. I mean,
we have a contingency fund.
there's a
too.
contingency, I mean, the town side of the contingency was $2,000 or something. We haven't touched that. The contractor contingency part has been, as they save money on things, like the building came in a little less than what they had in the budget for, so that added on to their contingency, which some things, like the water treatment system came off of that. We were able to get that out, because that wasn't included in. Once we get the water test in the well, we realized we had arsenic we had to take care of. So that's all gonna be in there, and it's not gonna cost us anything extra. There was that, coating the tank, which was an oversight. Coating the inside of the 5,000 gallon wastewater tank. And they've done a couple things that were really over and above their scope of work. Like today they had Phoenix up there, tying in the water lines to the transfer station. I mean, that was kind of not included in their scope of work. There's a few other things that happen like that there's money that they've saved other places that they didn't have to. I mean, we haven't done a single change order. And with those guys, if there's a change order, you do the change order immediately. It's not, they don't give you a fistful of change orders when you're done. That's not how it works.
Now, is the water that's going to the transfer station?
Treated? No.
It's not, so it's just for outside use, washing out the whatever.
Right. And they've got a bathroom there, but I think they've got bottled water up there they drink out of. So the water that they were using, I'm sure it was just surface water out of the old dug well there. I'm sure that wasn't the best water either.
There's a big pile behind it.
Yeah.
Now, the original completion date was October 31st, and I think when we initially started, we realized that it was probably gonna be more like November 15th.
Yeah, because right off the bat, we missed the start date by a couple of weeks because
Right.
the
No, that's what I was
Yeah.
mentioning, yeah. So I
Then
mean,
we've-
it's been now a month.
Yeah, we had power out they lost power for a week. I mean, they still were able to get some things done in there, but it was not full tilt production with no power, because there was no generator to run anything. So, I mean, there was, the there was a little bit of confusion about that whole holding tank, about it being inside the building. The plumber didn't want to take responsibility for hooking it up. It took some arm twisting and a couple engineers to talk about it and talk to a guy at the state to figure out exactly what they had to do to meet all the applicable codes. And so that held the overhead door guy up. I mean, he'll tell you flat out, I couldn't get in there. I lost a month because the floor wasn't down. And he's right, but he still has ample time now to get it done.
Now, was there any problem with the doors? I've heard that there was a problem with the doors. I'm not really sure what the actual problem was, but was there a problem?
No, the only issue was the building erector framed all the holes a foot too short. So the 6 doors at the truck bay doors are 14 feet high, which is plenty high to get a truck in. They have to be shorter than that to make it down the road. And the mechanic bay doors, I had them raise them to the 15-foot height. They had to go in and do a little reframing and make the openings bigger, but I made them make those bigger so Benji can get the compactor trailer in there when it's got 2 feet of snow on the roof without having to send someone up to shovel snow off it, which is typically when it has a problem. It's not great weather when there's a problem with it. It's frozen.
There was also discussion too about the arms of the doors being in the way.
Yeah, if anybody's seen it,
down there,
those
they
tracks,
go
the doors go
straight up.
straight up. There's no,
There's no arms to get in anybody's way. Their
You know.
doors just go right up out of sight. So
they go
there's
straight
no-
up, because all the doors are on that high wall in the front,
Right.
except for the one in the back, or the one in the mechanics bay. They all go,
That
you know,
one
they
does
just come in just a little bit to avoid the wall and they go straight up. So there's no chance anybody's gonna hit a door. Or when you get you can have all the doors open and still lift the bodies of the trucks up and not have to worry about it.
So in other words, that was a foot shorter.
The door opening itself is a foot shorter. It's the same size door. They're still 15-foot tall doors, because that's what the door supplier had ordered, and he had them, so we didn't slow things down by having them get different doors. He installed the same doors. They just the doors are a foot higher than the opening, which is, you can't see it anywhere anyway.
Now, I realize all these decisions had to be made, but should that have been made by the board?
There's no time. We gotta make decisions on the fly to get that thing done. We don't have time. If I hear something, there's a problem on a Tuesday morning, I don't have time to wait till the following Monday to get a decision.
Well, it's unfortunate though, because it seems to me we've only had 2 reports in 6 months.
No, this is the third one. But, yep,
Well, till tonight,
Yep.
yes.
I mean, I've got a few phone calls. I'm more than happy to discuss any questions anybody has.
Well, it's kind of after the fact.
I would really expect them to come to us with a decision like framing the door. That seems like a contractor decision. So, I just
Well, at least let us
respectfully
know.
disagree.
No, I understand, but I mean, we're hearing it from the people out there.
Yeah, and that's how buildings go. I mean, especially a design build like that. I mean, we had the plans, there's decisions that need to be made so they can keep working without slowing anything down, and that's, they've done, like I said, they've been, the general contractor Turnstone has done more than, they've done things that we asked them for additional, like Benji wanted to put his hose machine in a different place than originally planned, so it required another 220 outlet somewhere else. I mean, they did it, no problem, no question. I mean, they've been very easy to work with in that regard. And other contractors would not have been. You want to move a 220 outlet from upstairs to downstairs, I mean, it would have been, they could have charged $500 for that. Because the building was all drywalled and everything when Benji decided that was how he was going to do it. So they've been great to work with in that regard. And things, when a project that size, things happen as things go.
Oh, I understand that.
Yeah.
But I would like to I would have liked to have been kept abreast of what was happening and what,
I know I went down there at least
oh,
6, 8 times, different times, and every time I went in there, the super, Mike, come on in, you got a question, they take you right through, show you everything that you wanted. If you got a question, you ask him. I mean, I don't think it's anything hidden. I mean, anybody could
absolutely
have
not.
gone in and asked. He had an open door policy the whole time. So, I mean, I know that construction, sometimes you gotta make that decision right there. Other things that were big, I know that came through was that the piping and the venting for that tank, and that delayed. I know the public service also, that delayed it.
Yeah, public service was
They never hooked it up till the 27th of November. So
they were a couple of weeks, but,
yeah.
I mean, that was a delay getting power on the building, but it didn't slow down any time working
No,
in the building. I mean, we worked around it, you know.
I did go down there and I had spoken to you at one point,
I think, you know,
because the pipe that was supposed to go to the,
Yeah, that whole tag thing, that was just,
didn't go there.
I mean, it's all done now, it's water over the dam, the thing's all gonna be fine. It's just the plumber that was, I think it was lack of knowledge on just what that tank was. They thought it was,
It wouldn't have been in a design somewhere?
well, it was, but the plumber, he had transferred to his engineer that had to stamp everything, that he had, relayed to him that there was fuel going into it and oils going into it and all kinds of things, which is just a bad transfer of information, so that caused the engineer to throw up all kinds of red flags. And it took some time to get that all ironed out and get everybody on the same page as to just what was happening.
John, do you have any questions? Rick?
No, I just got a comment. I think if a lot of the, make or break decisions that were made, I think if they had to wait to come to the board to the next Monday, we'd be talking about this 2 years from now that we're still not done. So
Maybe I should have misworded that. And
I mean, yeah, maybe if there was a change, then maybe we should have got an email notification. I can't
agree.
I can't disagree with that. But again, if we had the changes like the headers and stuff like that, it's got to be done because you may hold up one contractor and stumble 6 more behind it.
Right.
It's not practical.
changing for framing is not a big issue.
No. So
You all set, Tim?
Yeah.
Yes, Jim?
Mhm.
Anything else, Bruce?
No,
Okay, well, thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
thank you.
Tom, the Southern Hampshire Planning, they're in Goffstown, she should be on her way here, but I don't know,
Move along with our agenda.
do you want to start budget, or do you want to do your minutes and do some other things till they get here, or just
Is there anything else under department heads, chief? Do you have anything other than budget issues to bring up tonight?
Just the bid for cruiser maintenance while we're waiting for the public works garage.
You want to do that tonight, or?
we can talk about it, I mean,
Yeah.
he's here. Sean, you want to go ahead?
So last May, we did an RFP for cruiser maintenance. And very frankly, made the mistake of not bringing the single bid that we had before the board for approval. And so we've redone it, or I've redone it. This time, we went I went a little bit further, and we direct mailed 8 vendors here in town, as well as posted the RFP on the town website, the police department website, and on the police department's Facebook page. The bid asked that, or rather the RFP rather, asked that any bids be submitted by last Friday. Excuse me. And we have received two responses. The first they're all in the same staple. The first sheet is from one local vendor, and then the second sheet is from a second. You'll see that in terms of your apples to apples, oranges to oranges request, you've got that there in front of you. That's each vendor responded to the RFP by bullet point. And what it comes down to is the differences between the two are $2 per hour on the service side, a fairly different rate on the diagnostic side, $11 difference on the diagnostic side. And the first vendor doesn't have the ASE certifications. Now, that doesn't, frankly, I'd have to defer to you, Rick, for more guidance on that, because that doesn't.
If you can take a written test, you can pass an ASE, and you can be ASE certified. There's no hands-on skills with ASE that I know of.
Okay, so then I don't know what weight to bear on that or not. Both are, from what I'm told, both are respected business people in the community. So it comes down to we have a gap between today and the day that the Department of Public Works will be able to take over our day-to-day routine maintenance and preventative maintenance on these cruisers, on the fleet.
I'll just interrupt Sean. Sean and Benji have talked about it, because we've heard it at public comment about trying to get it back into, having us do it like we always did, and they've had that conversation. The town of Weare didn't supply a bid, because I just think we're gonna shift towards that direction. We've all agreed that that's the best for the town. But at the same time, there is a gap, because until we can get everything in its place and up and running, there will be a gap, because the service needs to be done.
Right,
So-
that was the gap we were trying to fill last May.
Correct.
With the full recognition that Public Works was going to have their hands full between now and the time that they're fully operational in their new facility. So in any case, you have two bids in front of you. One is for Route 77 Motors, and the other is for Mark Phillips Automotive. Mark Phillips is the current vendor that we've been using, or my tenure. I don't know if it was used before that. Frankly, at this stage, I don't care to disrupt the apple cart. Their maintenance rate is $2 less an hour. Their diagnostic rate is $11 more an hour. But in every other respect, it seems that their bids are equal. So that's my recommendation, is to stay where we are for the time being until Public Works is ready to accept our work.
What kind of terms are on the contract? I never saw the RFP. Unless it was one we used, a year
I think
ago?
it was the same one.
It's the same
Same
we
one,
used in
dates
May.
changed? Okay.
Yeah,
I'd
just
have
the
to
date.
I'd have to go back and look at it then.
Yep, just the date of submission.
Okay.
Roughly how long are we talking? You've had discussions with Benji, how long are you talking to have this contract till
I think the spring.
the spring before he's ready to start servicing?
Right,
some of the-
between, check me on this, Naomi, but I believe what we're waiting for is the final move-in. And then they need to get through their plowing season. Right now, the mechanic that would be doing the work on our fleet is also responsible for their 13 trucks, as well as a plow route. And a key part for us on this is the ability to keep those cars up and running in the same form and fashion that that Benji has an interest in keeping his trucks up and running. So until he has that part-time position filled that's going to be able to assist him with keeping the trucks up, then we're in hurry up and wait.
Now, this doesn't count for the new cars, obviously, because they got warranties on them.
Well, you still
But
have
that's,
oil
we
change.
still got to do
The oil
the
changes.
routine
But I
preventive
mean,
maintenance. But any of the,
$80 an hour to do an oil change, I think.
right,
That's not covering that, I take it.
I think that's a cookie cutter type.
that's right. I think that's when you're talking about when we start digging into the Crown Victorias and so forth, when they're actually doing
Yeah.
repair work versus preventive maintenance
Okay,
work.
that's what, when I see this is the bid, I just want to make sure that wasn't
Yeah.
for oil changes.
I think the hope is to try to shuffle things in sooner, but I
Yep.
can't give
That's
you any
right.
more than that.
That's right. And Benji and I have had several conversations about this. We are both in the agreement that as soon as we can effectively move over to Public Works and reduce those costs, we will. But it's circumstances being what they've been, we have not been able to do that.
I think with the rates being so close, that it does make sense to leave it with status quo with the people who are familiar with the vehicles, say until, and revisit it, say, on April 1st. So the plowing season will be pretty much behind us, and we'll know where we stand as far as our budget and so forth. That's one opinion.
I don't want to look too stupid, but what does AS mean?
It's a certification,
Well, I can tell that,
but
Automotive service excellence. Yeah.
okay.
and they're certified in different areas, like it's not like one size fits all.
No.
Like you go into a garage, somebody might be ASC certified in muffler repair and somebody else in brakes or whatever. That's my interpretation of it.
Yeah, they have HVAC, they have, brake systems, engines, transmissions,
So they're testing.
wheel and tire end. It's all different aspects of it. But usually the master cert is an encompassment of all that, all those together.
I think, I agree with Tom, I think better off with the devil we know than the devil we don't at this point. They've already been servicing them and for the short period of time, if April, 1st of April.
Then if something comes up and we find that it's not possible for our garage to
Then start putting it back out to
pull
bid.
onto these and take a look at it and see if we can spread the work around.
Right, then, at that point, we'll be better informed. Benji and I will have had another conversation in the spring or over the winter, and we'll know whether or not there's a date that we can look at as a little bit more hard for transitioning over to them.
Now, I got a question for the board. With this being I'll call it a contracted service, where does this leave the purchasing policy? Anything over $1,000 still needs to be quoted, or is this just the run-of-the-mill tires, tire changeovers, the brake jobs, the oil changes, change of headlight, etc., or is this everything, including, something that could be transmission or something like that?
I think if we have to have a major repair, we should get a bid and find out what it's gonna cost for something like an engine or a transmission.
That's my feelings as well. If it's over that,
I think you do it on your own vehicle.
right? I mean, if it's run-of-the-mill work that needs to be done, routine maintenance, then absolutely. But I think if it's something larger, it still needs to be bid. That's my personal feelings on it.
I think with those old Crown Vics, if it's time we need a new engine, probably.
I think it's time.
Probably sooner than
With the
It's
variant.
probably time to take it to Schnitz's,
Right.
put it in the crusher.
But I mean, we just went down that road. We had the question on car 6 with the serpentine. I mean, the time and belt water pump gig, something of that nature on a vehicle we're keeping.
Yeah.
So just a thought.
But what are your thoughts, Rick? What do you think we should be doing in that case?
In that case, I think it should be bid. Honestly, anything over that $1,000 mark. I mean, we all know time and belts are routine maintenance, but it's a large ticket item. I feel, and to me, it should be bid.
But if it's under the 1,000, no.
Correct,
Yeah.
right. Again, and I think your typical brake job / like I said, headlight changes or, et cetera, is gonna fall under the,
So it's
this
just your major.
major failure type thing,
Yeah,
right,
Transmission.
right.
Now, how about a set of tires if the dealer will match the state bid price?
Well, tires for cars are different than tires. If they match the price, I mean, you're gonna get it, it's
Well, we
under
just did it,
$1,000.
we just got it for 100 and something less than the state with
Yeah.
somebody else.
Yeah, with somebody
The
else,
highway,
right.
and that's a
Highway.
big tire, I mean, these are a lot, the car
Yeah.
tire's a lot less, but,
I'm just trying to, I'm trying to follow our policy
Right.
without making it cumbersome.
I mean, you can
Right.
buy a set of 4 tires for about $800, so I mean,
And
for your own vehicle.
$60 an R&R,
Yeah.
so you're still on that 1,000 mark.
Right.
Is that as clear as mud?
Just waiting for the motion and approval.
Are you gonna make a motion? He's waiting for a motion.
Okay, I move that we stay with Mark Phillips Auto through April 1st for the reasons stated.
And I think I'd like to add to that, that anything over the 1,000 would go out to bid.
Would follow the purchasing
Follow
policy.
purchasing policy.
I'll accept that as part of the
Yeah.
motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Naomi, will you send the letter or you want me to?
I can, I'll make myself a note.
Okay, thank you.
Chief, before, any progress on the cameras at the PD, they intend to
No,
start doing anything? Not yet?
they're actually gonna reach you to come, just to let you know.
Oh.
Probably gonna reach out to you tomorrow.
Okay,
There
there you
Well,
go.
that answers that.
Yeah.
Mike, before we start with this presentation, did you have anything under department heads other than budget issues? Okay, so you want to skip over you.
Sylvia, just in time.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's
Did it
perfect
well.
timing. It's perfect timing. They're all here waiting to listen to you.
Naomi, do you need me for that other thing?
Do you, just before we get started, Sean was gonna stay for budgets. Do you want to talk to Sean again about budgets?
Are we at the point where we've gotten new information? I don't know.
We
if
got
we
new
have.
information through the course of the week.
No.
Sylvia, how long are you gonna be?
We can do
2
10
minutes?
minutes. We could do 2 minutes. I can do that in 2 notes. It's really up to the committee because the board, because if you have several questions, we've done it as short as 10, and we just came from Goffstown. I think we were maybe 15, 20.
Can you wait
Go
for
ahead.
that? All right. All right. Sylvia, you're on.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for your time. I'm Sylvia Von Awalak. I'm the Executive Director at Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission. And with me tonight is Adam Lasney and Doug McNutt from AARP. And the reason why we're here is really to present the opportunity of working with the commission on our age-friendly program. Last year, we were lucky enough to get funding from Tufts Health Plan Foundation to do what we call age-friendly assessments with all our communities. And Adam, do you have the reports for the group? So Adam's going to hand you the result of that work. Basically, this is all about listening. We listened to your stakeholders, your community champions, people who went online to our website and took a survey. And we focused on 4 areas: transportation, housing, recreation engagement, and economic development, all with the idea of how would you, if you're a senior and you're trying to downsize, or you're a senior and you no longer can utilize a car, how would you get around? So always with that mindset of a senior, or at the same rate, and the reason being because we know the senior population is growing in New Hampshire. And the other age group we focused on were millennials. And the reason being is because we know young adults are leaving the state and leaving our region. And when there's, a shortage of all sorts of, whether it's nurses or just, fill in the blank, who's going to take the job? So we are very interested in these two groups. So what you're seeing is the feedback we received from your community, the participants. And so that was phase one in the assessment. Phase two is why we're here tonight, is not just to show you what your own people said, but it's also about phase two, which is taking it from the assessment, and we have received funding to go into a planning process where we are welcoming up to 3 communities to work with us from this assessment. Now, we're doing the same thing in all our 14 communities. We're presenting this, the assessment, and we're saying, hey, if you are interested, please write us a letter of interest. We're very interested in knowing if you want to take it from assessment into an age-friendly, let's say you're needing to work on your master plan, for example. The age-friendly strategic plan could be a precursor to your master plan and feed some of the chapters of that. If you wanted to be a pilot community, it could be whatever you wanted. We're working with people like Mike, your library director, who came out and we held the assessment there at the library. And it's just so interesting to hear residents where they're like, we really would like a senior center. We'd like to have more meeting spaces. I don't know what I'm going to do when I can no longer drive. These are comments from your own community. But Adam, why don't you come up and share a little bit about phase two and what we know from other communities.
So just really quickly, we've been doing some research on the AARP Age-Friendly Network, which is across the whole country from Maine to Hawaii. There are over 200 communities that are part of this network, 40 of which are in Maine. It's not a one-size-fits-all program. It can be used to work with the community to find local solutions. One of the towns we've been looking at is Newport, Vermont, which is a isolated, economically depressed area near the Canadian border. Their population's around 5,000, and they became the first age-friendly community in Vermont in 2013, and they did their age-friendly plan in 2015. They've since seen a lot of economic development and downtown revitalization, and I think Doug has some more information on the AARP side of things.
So I'm always nervous about coming from AARP because they go, oh, those old people. But trust me, this age-friendly, a lot of these issues are as much for millennials as they are for aging people. You know how you used to hear this discussion about, oh, the curb cuts don't only help people in wheelchairs, they help people pushing baby carriages. Well, I have the same sort of attitude about this. Hopefully a lot of the baby boomers, of which I'm one, I'm a mere 62, but and millennials have a lot of the same interests in terms of housing and transportation and things. And what we are at AARP is primarily a resource. We're part of this age-friendly network, and I would just show you a couple of things here. I don't have enough for all of you, but this gives you an example of what kinds of information we have. And lastly, I'd say, it's up to your community. We're not telling you what to do. We have resources that we hope you'd find helpful, and it's really up to the community itself. So that's where I come.
So just to confirm, this is no cost to the community. This is because we have assistance from AARP as well as from Tufts Health Plan Foundation. And this is really an invitation. If you this is a summary of our summary, because we know people are busy and they have far too much to read. You can also go to our website and see a 2-minute video if you're not a reader at all. But basically, What this is it tells you a little bit about the program, a little bit more concise than what I'm saying to you. And on the back, you'll see what you need to do as a group. And that is, all you have to do is just submit a letter of interest. And for example, last week we were in Chester and Auburn, and tonight we're just coming from Goffstown, and both Chester and Goffstown, the Board of Selectmen then and there made a motion that they were going to submit a letter of interest to be one of the 3 communities for our age-friendly pilot program. So leave it up to you folks if you'd like to participate, but I'll let you know that we're looking for that letter by mid-January, and we will make a decision by the end of January which 3 communities we're working for. The whole this next phase, the pilot program, will end sometime in around May, because our grant runs out by the end of June. So this is not a long, drawn-out process. This is a hit your feet on the floor and run. And so we plan on engaging the people that were part of the who came out for phase 1, and invite more. Anyone who's the folks at home who are listening or who are in the audience today. And we'd be happy to work with the town of Weare. Any questions I might be able to answer?
When you go through your selection process
Yes.
to pick the 3 communities, are you looking at differentiating as far as population? For example, if you chose Manchester, you probably wouldn't go with Nashua as well, but maybe you would. I don't know. Are you looking to diversify that way, or Ware's very unique because of our population being so spread out compared to, say, the city of Franklin, which has, I think, a little fewer people, but it's a city where the population is condensed. So I know Franklin's not in the area, just as a comparison. What are you looking for?
That's a great question. Thanks, Tom. So basically I can't tell you actually the answer, because we have always been advised by a steering committee, and you may have folks on that steering committee from your town here, and we're going to ask them about the criteria. It might be we want 1 rural, 1 suburban, 1 urban community. It may be we want to spread around the different population sizes. Our Complete Streets pilot program, we did that. We made sure we had 1 rural, 1 suburban, and 1 urban community. But we're putting that invitation to all our 14. I'll let you know, Francistown, which is the most far west for one of our communities, they've already said we have too much other on our plate this year, maybe next year. If we have 13 communities say, yes, we want to, I'll be going for another grant to continue this work. But certainly Doug and the folks at ARP, they're interested in signing anyone up and utilizing their toolkit right online. So if you're not fortunate enough to be one of the 3 communities, you might be interested in going through AARP. But we'd love to at least have you consider it. Does that answer your question, Tom? Yeah.
Yes. Anybody else have questions? Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank
you.
For
I'll just reports.
Tom, did anybody, a lot of them were here, any questions?
Does anybody else?
Yeah, it's not public comment right now. Does anybody in the audience have questions concerning this program? Yes.
I have a comment. My name is Brian Kaminsky.
Yes.
They talked about transportation and when you can't drive any longer, how do you get around? Well, I think it also concerns people that still drive, but there are situations like, how do you get to the airport from where? What do you do when you have to have your car fixed? How do you get back and forth to Concord or Manchester? If there were public transportation, even limited, like one trip a day, it would be so much more helpful to people, or even, like you say, once a week or once every 3 days, if there was something that we could do besides having to trouble our friends to take us 22 miles to Manchester or 17 miles to Concord to get something done because our vehicle is not available to us. And this would be the same for millennials or anybody.
That's the exact type of thing that we hope to address, whether it's a rural community like Weare, or it could be Bedford. But this same scenario is in so many of our communities. You'll see in the report, one of the things we rated, actually we didn't rate, the participants rated, what would you do if you didn't have a car? How would you rate it? And I can tell you.
Oh, okay. Nobody can hear you.
People at home.
I'm so sorry, I know that rule too, and I should be good about it. But one of the things that people rated, the participants of the program rated, the question, how is your community if you don't have access to a car? I can't tell you how many people said 0 out of 1 to 5, or said you can't exist if you don't have a car. It was actually a quote from a resident in Weare who said, if you could solve the transportation and the housing, everything else falls into place. And so those are those gems that we hear from residents from your community. And I don't have the answer to that question, to your question. I don't have it today, but I do believe they're solvable. And I know that with the help of ARP's examples, with the 200 plus communities working on this, we can find out what are they doing. We don't have to reinvent the wheel, but we just need to know that you're interested. That's one thing that will set Weare apart. What's your commitment to this program? To wanting to become age friendly, to answering the question of your own resident, what do I do when I don't have a car available to me? So those are the kinds of things. The same as if I want to downsize, where do I go in my community? I want to stay in the community I grew up in, that I raised my family in. We sort of all have that in our hearts, right? What do I do? And what does Weare have for folks who want to downsize, or for your adult children who want to stay here but suddenly can't find it's affordable, or they don't have many choices? So I know I get a little excited about it and emotional. That's as far as I'll go tonight. I won't do anything crazy, but I'm passionate about the topic. Because I get it. I get living in a rural community and wondering. I heard it from the gentleman in Chester just last week. Well, we can't fix our transportation problem. I don't know about that. I think that, you know what? You folks are bright. You're imaginative. And I'm not here to create a list of $1 million projects. It's not our intent. We want to figure it out. I don't know it now, but by mid-May we'll figure it out. And I don't know what it might cost you. It may cost nothing. It may be a coordination of a volunteer effort, like they do in Candia. Do you know who does it? The librarian. She invites. Come on, Mike. Come on up to the mic. You can't wait to say I'll do it. But you know what she did? She recognized that there are lots of people who want to volunteer, and lots of groups that need volunteers, but they weren't coordinated. They weren't knowing about each other, and so that's what she did. She helped them find each other. All right, okay.
Sorry, I'm full of ideas. North Conway has a thing called Fast Taxi, and it's just a citizen up there that decided to go into business. And she runs this little minibus around the town and delivers people. You can call it, and get back and forth. So something like that would work. And somebody would have a job.
There you go.
we had, similar to that, we had a gentleman in town for quite a few years who ran sort of an errand service. You could hire him to go to Manchester and get something for you, and it isn't a big step beyond that to have somebody get the proper licensing to transport people.
That's right. See? You're solving the problem already.
Every time I open my mouth, I end up with more to do. Yeah, I get that. But just from a department head's point of view, I know all of us are dealing with a lot of these issues in one form or another, and it would be a huge help to have the planning side sort of done for us, because I'm sure some of the things that we're doing at the library could be done better, either with a different focus or done better by somebody else, and we could be doing other things. Getting the planning done would be really helpful, because it would give us something to shoot at, to understand where these problems are. Going through this process has been pretty eye-opening for me, because the library's been focused the last year or so specifically on the aging population. And this process comes up, and it dawns on us that we haven't even looked at the fact that we're losing all of our 18-year-olds. And the report that you have has got a very stunning graph just on the age breakdown. Normal demographics would say an age breakdown should look like a steadily declining, slowly declining slope. Well, you'll notice that, of course, ours isn't that. It's got these two big spikes: school-age kids and their parents. And when they get out of school, the population crashes. And when their kids get out of school, the population crashes again. That's the beauty of planning, is that it brings things that should be brutally obvious. I should have seen that a year ago and known that there is a need somewhere in there, and we might be able to help it. But I didn't see it because we didn't have this planning thing. So I would really ask you folks to make the commitment that some of the other towns have. Tonight, vote that you'll submit a letter of interest for this, because this process would make my job so much, probably not easier, but more effective over the next 5 or 10 years. Probably would make a lot of our jobs harder, but we don't mind as long as it's working towards something that's positive.
Lori Davis. I just lost my mother. She was 88 years old, and she went through not being able to drive, moving to a senior citizen's home. It's part of reality. We are going through a budget center now. We are looking at our budgets for the year. And while I appreciate we have elderly populations, we have children populations, one thing we must keep in mind is that the taxpayers cannot be responsible for everything in this town. They cannot be responsible for everybody's issues in town. And we have to remember, we have to be proactive for ourselves.
I think the purpose here is to explore possibilities and not necessarily look at something that's going to reflect on taxpayers. Our decision as a board is to whether or not we want to submit a letter of interest. And I don't know if people are ready to make that commitment tonight, or if we want to bring it up as a further discussion among ourselves at a future meeting. I really would be interested in somebody else up here chirping in as far as your views. Do that while I check my pulse.
I think it's worth looking at it. I think it's worth sending a letter of intent and see what comes out. I mean, it's not going to cost us anything as a town, but it's going to give us a blueprint to look at, see which ways we can go, and if it's even viable or feasible for the town. And I think if we don't, we might be remiss.
I agree with Jack.
So I'd like to make a motion that we do send a letter to showing our interest in this plan, the Southern New Hampshire planning.
Okay. All in favor? Right.
Is there a second?
All right.
Okay.
Okay. You'll get our letter.
Thank you very much.
Is that Bob?
Have fun.
In March,
No,
get cut off.
not March.
Not March, Chris. March, I don't know what you like. Chris? Chris? Did you have something? Because you rose your hand and kind of cut you off.
Yeah, well, just quickly, I definitely, when I was reflecting on what would benefit that senior population, I believe it's the same thing that's going to benefit other ages in this town. I think that if we strengthen some of what we have now, it's going to keep seniors here more, but it's also going to help younger people than seniors.
It's going to prepare the town for
Yeah.
the up-and-coming seniors.
Don't push the envelope, huh?
I know Ricky's jumping at the bit for that.
Yeah, I'm getting there. I'm getting there someday.
Well, I don't know, I mean, my daughter lives in Keene, and she was on various government bodies in Keene, because she wanted to see that younger people stayed in Keene. She left Keene.
So that didn't work so well.
Well, everyone has
I
their
go
own
place with
life.
that, but I'll leave it alone.
Sometimes it takes you other places.
Chris, the answer to your email, I support. Chris had sent me an email and asking about meeting with each department head and writing kind of a letter for Mike's paper about what's in their budgets and just a positive note. Chris would write it as she asked if she could do that. I didn't have a problem with it, and I don't think you guys would either. She would meet with the department heads,
Yeah.
and then she would write from there. Is that okay?
Question, who is my clearinghouse? Would I run it by you and then give it to Mike?
Tom's the writer.
I want the content to be right. I do not write fake news. So, if
I
could
can do that, yeah.
Yeah,
Not
okay.
to put more on Naomi's plate, but she'd probably get the access to most of the factual
No, or
information.
even just having that particular department head verified.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be great, because I had made a commitment to Mike back several months ago, and I haven't followed through, being able to keep up writing things that are related to town business. Hope to get back to that at some point, but in the middle of budget season, it's probably
Right,
not
and
gonna
that's why I
happen.
think Chris sent me an email Saturday, Friday, some evening, she was sitting at home. And she offered to do that, I just didn't get a chance to get back to her, but I
I
always,
think that's great.
the more information you can get out there and a
Mm.
positive, what we need, I think that's a great idea. Thank you, Chris.
So that means Mike's newspaper is gonna start to have more.
Well, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
More pages.
Always look, more pages, we might have to reorganize things a little bit.
Smaller pictures.
Especially with this thing came out of a meeting at the end of budget season last year, where people said there wasn't enough information out there. So this is really the time that newspaper is on.
I'm all for it.
And I'll tell you, it's very, very good. It's very newsy. Even being up here, I find out things that I didn't know about.
No,
Thank you, guys.
27,000.
Okay.
Tom, I don't know what, just for the budget, Sean and Beth and I have worked on and off on several different lines, and I think, my thought was if we could go over that, with Sean while he's here. Not sure that Bob has made any changes. You haven't made any changes to your budget? No. So I'm just asking that we maybe just go over what Sean has come up with in the last week since we met.
Okay, is that on our new sheet?
Yes.
The single sheet, right?
No, for those four, you have separate sheets because you took yours over the weekend. The four of you, it should be pages 5 through 8. You will notice the date will be 12/11 on just a certain. I tore your packet apart. Yep, I tore your packet apart and inserted your.
I'm glad I didn't bring that home with you.
Yes.
5 through 8,
You
right?
did.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So you got separate ones.
I got that. So there's been some more follow-up, sorry, I didn't mean to. There's been some verification of the dispatch, there's been verification of the rubbish removal, there's been verification of the cleaning service. IMC, you already had verification. So, there is some other changes as well that I think deserve a little more discussion. And the reason I'm asking that he go first is he's also going to be going to the Finance Committee on Wednesday. So, as much as we can refine numbers, the better off we'll be. So, we're still not complete, but it's more of a start from when he was here last Monday. So, I don't know, from there,
Take it away.
the highlighted ones, is that what you're looking at?
Oh, okay.
Some of them didn't get the highlights on the far side though. They got
So
changed.
we're going right to page 6 then?
No, 5.
No,
There's a reduction on 5 too.
At the,
116.
part-time secretary.
Sorry when I made the copies today, for some reason.
No, that's fine.
Shaded solid enough from others.
It's fine.
Clear.
I got last week's and
Oh,
this
good,
week, so.
okay.
So Sean, do you want to take the lead in the conversation of reductions and increases?
Where is your one here?
I'm gonna just step a little bit further away from Beth so that I'm outside of swatting distance when I make mistakes.
Oh, I thought you were gonna make changes.
Again. Okay. So, there were a number of questions last week that I've tried to be responsive to. Principally, one of the things that we worked on this week was narrowing the focus of these lines that were placeholder lines, where we didn't have those facts and figures that you'd like for your final budget. So, as Naomi pointed out, the contract items have been finalized. The other thing we did, or I did, and Beth graciously changed in the worksheet, is that instead of the 5% placeholder that you saw in so many places, unfortunately the 2017 year-end inflation index isn't going to be out until Wednesday night, but I used the November 17 index to narrow the field down to 2.1% inflation index as a forecast for what we can expect in those lines for increases in cost of operations over 2018. So any place that you had seen that 5%, that's been changed. So I don't know do we want to go line by line?
No, just start out, do you have the highlighted one?
Yeah,
Right.
but that's what I'm saying. Do you want to go line by line on all those?
I would think
Okay.
just the
The
highlighted.
highlighted lines, yeah.
Highlight one.
I understand that, but there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Okay, so
Outstanding.
line 116, the part-time clerk. That's one of two of the most significant changes that you're going to see tonight. And what I've recommended is that line, which is recognized in the collective bargaining unit as a protected position, we can't eliminate it. Because it's in the collective bargaining, but we certainly can reduce the funding. So I've recommended that be moved to $20. So why? There's a couple of things in the landscape that have changed over the last year for that position. First of all, the incumbent has become vastly more familiar with the machinations of town government and the functions of her position in the Weare Police Department, as well as two fairly significant changes in some of the tasks, the daily tasks. One is that the state legislature changed the pistol permit law. So our pistol permit work has fallen by greater than 80%. What was taking up, some weeks a huge number of hours every week has been reduced to some weeks none, most weeks none on pistol permits. Again, I would hazard that we were probably less than 20% of the volume that we were this time last year. Okay, and the other one is on our public information requests. It's like the ocean. You know, sometimes it's smooth, sometimes it's stormy, and we went through a period last year where, and for the first several months of this year, where our 91A volume, in terms of the numbers of 91A requests, though that hasn't changed that dramatically since this time last year, what has is the total volume of actual documents that are going out. Instead of a 91A request ending up with 300 to 1,000 pages of documents, we're seeing more fairly routine requests. That's taking up a significant amount of our time, or significantly less amount of our time. And if you'll recall, the argument last year for this position, funding this position, fully, was essentially those two tasks that had to be fulfilled. It's, but again, you know, hopefully we won't run into the stormy sea.
Any comments or questions on that line?
Nope.
Okay, line 150. One of the things that we talked about last week in some detail was whether or not we needed to have 2 full-time officers. How much effort was I going to be putting into recruiting part-time officers, rather? How much effort was I going to be putting into recruiting part-time officers? And I was very frank with you. I'm not going to put in a great deal of effort to recruit part-time officers when I still need to recruit heavily into the full-time positions that we have that remain vacant, which, by the way, we gave 2 conditional offers today. So we'll be furthering 2 candidates down the pike. Hopefully, we'll have some greater success than we've had in the not so distant past.
Excuse me, when you say conditionally, what's still
The conditionals are everything that are intrusive, medical, psychological, polygraph, background, that
Those
type
are
of
done.
things. No, they're not.
They're not.
No.
They need to
They
be done.
have to have a conditional offer before those can be done.
Oh, I see.
They've passed the written test, they've passed the physical fitness test, and they've gotten past an oral board interview. All right, so anyhow, one of the questions that got asked me last week was, you know, how do you use your part-time officers? And my vision, and there is an element of risk here, although our current sitting executive board of the union is receptive to my desired use of part-time officers to fill vacancies created by leave, training, court appearances, sickness, that kind of thing, versus what the collective bargaining agreement calls for is if you're a part-timer, you get a fixed shift of 30 hours a week. That doesn't seem very efficient to me, but anyhow, so this line has been changed to reflect that. So instead of $42,000 that it was last Monday night, I've reduced my recommendation to you to $10,500, which is 1 position for half the amount of time. All right. You know, things like the Medicare costs, the FICA costs, telephone. I'm not going to touch, but telephone. That's going to be. Hold on, let me give you a line number 341.
Well, Chief, I'd like to touch upon them because they did go down. I think that's a reflection of the part-time, correct?
Yeah, the part-time.
Yeah.
Part-time
Okay.
secretary.
Right, and that,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. That's the reason. I mean, like I said, one line went from 2,600 to a deficit. So,
Yeah. So they did.
so yeah,
did go
so
down.
they went down, which is
Yeah, it's reflective of the change in
Correct. Yeah.
my recommended staffing.
that's all I want to talk about. Yeah.
Similarly, line 341 telephone, that change there you're going to see is based on that discussion we had before about 5% versus the inflation index. Dispatch, that's a hard cost now. We know that the 2018 contract is going to be $32,000. The electricity, that's down. That's again 2 different things that have gone down there. That's the usage, because we're closer to the end of the year. We could better forecast the usage till the end of the year, and then 2.1%. Building maintenance made some change there, but again, that's going to be some of your discussion. it's, the number you see there is, again, a calculation based on usage and projected out. Though the usage in 2017 was huge, is it reasonable for us to assume that it's going to continue to be that size? And do we want to budget against that? I don't know. I'll leave that to you. But that's, again, that's your philosophical discussion as a board. You were talking about last week bringing all the building maintenance home. That's for you guys to decide. All right, so the training line. Let me dig up my notes on that, but we did change that. Okay, that's been reduced by about $3,900 from last week, and that was there is a course that I would have liked to have sent one of the sergeants to this year down at Roger Williams University. It would be the next leadership development school that we would have for him, and they simply won't accept him because he's not a lieutenant or higher ranking officer. So rather than try and push that through somehow, just cut that out of the budget. Now, one of the questions that came up during the week is the police academy is tuition free. When we send a police officer to Concord for their 16 weeks of basic training, the attendance at the academy is tuition, room, board free to us. We still have to pay for their salary and benefits and so forth, but in terms of their physically being present in Concord, it's free. Now, what's interesting is that there's a current lawsuit up at the police academy that I'm going to be watching. They're being sued for overtime for the fact that it's while they're there 24 hours a day. Be curious to see how the courts react. I think that if that ends up happening, you're going to see the police academy change entirely. It's going to be a complete change. Anyhow, but that shouldn't impact us anytime soon. The boiler, that's line 590. We changed that a little bit, up $21 to be reflective of again, that recalculation as we're getting closer to the end of the year. Similarly, rubbish removal, cleaning services, both of those are hard numbers. That's $595 and $96. Those are hard numbers from the vendor. I'm seeing two things on this next line, Beth, that I'm not sure. They're kind of competing with one another. It's an increase to 8,168, but I'm also seeing a reduce from 8,521. Is that an old one that I just didn't get crossed off?
That note in the column is for the selectmen. Last week it read 8,521.
Okay, good.
I just want to show them what it was.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so
What line are you on?
610.
610.
yep, line 610. So police supplies.
Increase from last year's of 8,000.
That's right.
But decrease from the proposed.
That's right. Okay, so line 615 is another one that we've seen a significant change to. I had projected out that I wanted to buy 3 new body-worn cameras in 2018. Very frankly, that number was developed in August when I started working on the budget, and I missed it. We have since, by necessity, replaced all of the existing body-worn cameras. We're up to speed in terms of new ones. So I've reduced that by $4,682 to $1,818 so that we can have a spare. If we have one that gets damaged or needs to be repaired or something like that, we can still have an officer go out with a uniquely serial numbered body-worn camera for their use.
Does that cover if these 2 recruits that you have make it through the final stage?
Yes.
That covers their...
Yes, it does. Beth, is that another one on line 620 there? Is that same thing? Okay. So there's a change there from to 6263 for supplies.
Not reflective of what,
That's right.
okay. Of what,
So, you know,
'cause we went to
it's
7.
office supplies. You know, this is one of those things that, Naomi, Beth, and I talked about. It's when you, I had a little bit of an education sitting here listening to Benji and Chief Vizina present their budgets, and they're so much further broken down than ours. You know, for instance, and the one that I keep on hanging my hat on is in Director Knapp's budget when he talks about rakes and shovels. Now, it's a tool. You can understand what that means. You understand what the pricing for that type of thing is. You can see it in there, and it makes sense to you. Okay, okay, let's move on. I don't have that. You know, I have these bulk lines that are kind of ends up being catch-alls, and anyhow, there we go. IMC server maintenance. That's line 622. That's a hard number from the vendor. You gave me grief last week for saving the $5 from $705 to $700 on the postage. The gallons that have been done already. The cruiser maintenance line 660. Move that back, roll it back to 20,000. That's a little bit of a gamble. That's a hope and a prayer that we actually are successful with the warrant for, or whatever you decide to do for the purchase of 2 new cars. 670, rolled that back to 200. Communications equipment. It was at 4469, rolled it back to 3,445, and that is the cost of a new portable radio. It blows me away, but that's the cost of a radio through our vendor. And that's line 685.
Now, just to refresh my memory, the plan is to start replacing 1 portable a year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there any other vendors that you can get prices from for the portables?
He's your vendor.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
a tough.
they're the ones that service them. They're the ones that
Yeah.
provide the batteries for them, the antennas for them, and so forth. So, I mean, are there other vendors out there? Probably, but
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
right.
yeah.
Right, and I know that when we did when we upfitted the cars and OME put them in, I know that I raised the question of making sure that, that our vendor was okay with that, because obviously it's a different vendor putting it in, and they were okay with that, so. But I think that was a special occurrence, more so than, than buying
Okay.
a portable and programming it.
Another vendor before, that's why I was checking.
Right.
Juvenile diversion, rolled that back to $1,000. You folks did that last week. The ballistic vests, the number that you see there, I don't know how that got lost in translation, but you folks had changed it. So I put it back to $4,275. That's reflective of 2 vacant positions and the 3 that have to be replaced, and that's a hard number. So it's we know we have to buy those vests, and that's the cost of them. And then the last thing that we changed, I'm not sure why that's shaded.
The one-time purchase,
Yeah.
lockers.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I had given you a ballpark figure of $9,000. Turns out that by buying the number of lockers that we will need, actually we get a heck of a break on the actual cost of the locker and the shipping. So instead of $9,000, it's $8,606 to complete that project.
So the rest is for the fence quote?
Yes, sir, it is. And that, again, goes back to your desire about whether or not we're going to move forward with
That building.
the property up on North Stark Highway. So all in all, the changes that we worked on here resulted in a number of significant changes.
You missed the dry clean.
I did, huh?
The safety vest, we're the ones to drop that.
Safety medical gear.
Right, the one above that says uniform
clean.
maintenance, dry clean. That's highlighted.
It's not on mine, that's why I missed it.
It's not highlighted on mine.
It's not on yours either?
No.
No?
Well, I didn't color it.
It's the same one as before.
That hasn't changed.
That didn't
No.
change. No.
It's been the copier.
So the safety and medical gear, that reduced that to 1,500, so that's another reduction. Anyhow, with the changes that I've suggested here, if you take out our imposed costs, those being the contractual obligations and our personnel-related things that we don't have any control over, out of the budget, the operations line that I'm recommending you increases by $29,000, or roughly 1.9%. So a bit different from what you saw last week. And that, as they say, is that.
I'm looking at 160.
Is there anything left outstanding that we had noted before that we wanted to talk about?
I think on the one on the side, if you look at the numbers on the side, do you have those?
Yeah.
Okay, those are the ones that you wanted to revisit. So I think we hit them all along with
Yeah.
some other changes.
Mine, most of the highlights didn't come out, so I just went along.
Well, I've realized I'm
highlights.
looking at one revision, because my bottom line says 164. Yours says 160. 993.
I like ours better.
Did the shades in this column come out? 'Cause that's the one I was talking about.
Not all of them.
Not all
Not all of
them.
them. No.
Most of
The
them.
one on the 3-digit numbers down
Yeah.
the side, yeah, not all of them. Because a lot of things we talked about didn't have highlights.
Well, the only ones that didn't.
But the actual dollar number has
Contractual.
highlight on it.
Yeah. The 3-digit numbers, if those are highlighted, last week you wanted us to asterisk to go back to it.
Okay.
That's what those mean.
And I think we
They
addressed them.
highlighted.
Yeah, he addressed-
dollars, just
Yep, he
means
addressed them.
So, okay, on those.
Yeah.
Then if you wouldn't, the one that we didn't touch was that far left line, line 256, computer equipment.
Right.
The number hasn't changed, but last week I had reported to you that we have 11 desktops. That's inaccurate. We actually have 12. And the reason being is one of them is it's separate from everything else. It can't be used for any other purpose. It can't be on the internet. It can't be put into the system. It has to remain completely isolated and alone by federal regulations for the viewing of unfortunately, child pornography during the course of our investigations. So that's the 12th desktop.
So, I know that we wanted to revisit it, because I know that we bought considerable amount in 16, and we bought 2 more last year.
Which are you at? Are you talking
On the
about
computers, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's why we wanted to revisit it, because it didn't seem like the computers that we had bought recently weren't that old. So,
Yeah, and there's,
I do have a list of,
Yeah,
from
and
the
I-
vendor of every department, every computer, and it's color coded, is what they're recommending is good, and then there's some red ones that need to be changed, because those are 6 years old or more, and then there's 4 to 6 years old, there's some, and there's a lot of the yellow, which is 3 to 6, which, and their dates are when they were put into service, so I didn't print that, but we do have that townwide, meaning fire, police, everybody, so
I'd like to see
everybody's
that.
computers on that, yeah.
I'd like to see that. My next question is that going to go to a larger number than when you put the tablets in service in the cars? That computer, you said we have 12 desktops, correct? And how many computers do we have to maintain total in your department?
we have those 12, 1 laptop, and the 5 tablets.
So we'll have 5 tablets, okay.
Yeah.
And those are already 4 years old?
At least.
Yeah, they predate me,
Yeah.
Okay,
so
yeah.
I'm not sure when they came into
Are they,
service.
are
but
they the tough books. So, yeah.
Yeah, Panasonic Tough
Some of those
Tablet or
are-
whatever they call
Pads, I
it,
think.
Tough
Yeah,
Pads.
some of those are,
Tough beds, right,
some of those are even older.
right.
Go right down the line, questions of funders?
No.
Finance?
Chief, I appreciate the effort in sharpening the pencil.
Quite welcome. It was our intention all along. This is a team effort, and obviously when we get together, the five of you and Beth and Naomi and I, we're able to make these things happen.
Thanks, Chief.
All right?
Thank you.
Did you have any questions? I'm sorry.
No, he's looking forward to the changes that he's made.
Did you have anything with
Have a
your
safe
budget
ride home,
tonight?
or safe ride to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you too, Chief.
Thank you. Before we go into other sections.
but I forgot to bring it. But it's okay, because I can talk to you real quick about it.
I'm gonna throw this out there while he's here. Has anybody got any last minute questions about the helmets?
No.
So you might as well ask him, because last time he left and we
No.
didn't have we asked a lot of questions.
I got one question on that.
Yep.
Will Firewalk approve that purchase, or it was just you, this year?
This year, it was
Yeah, the ones you-
just me.
The ones that we.
This year is just me.
My question is, it's a 4-year-old bid. I think it should have gone back out to bid. That's my issue.
Well, I can understand that part, but where we got to from 2013, 5 or 6 vendors, I forget what the number was. So we sent it out, they made returns, we selected a manufacturing style of helmet, and this is just a continuation of the uniformity of that equipment. Could we have put it back out? We could have, and then I guess I could stand here and say, we want to purchase the same ones that we got, regardless of the price, but we wanted to purchase the same ones that
No,
we
the helmets
have
are here.
going forward.
The helmets have already arrived,
Yeah.
so putting it out to bid doesn't.
And you know, and I totally understand your concern, but I would, in the discussion with Naomi, this is one, not an intent to circumvent the purchasing policy. But we do this with turnout gear as well. I mean, we've gone down the road with Globe Manufacturing for our turnout gear, and we do that simply because the stuff all matches. So if we have to mix and match or anything like that, we've standardized a lot of the stuff that we've done. I kind of consider it an extension of that, but I certainly see your point as to the age of the initial project.
I think next year if they do something, I really think we need to go back out.
Sure.
You might get surprised like it now.
It's possible. No, but I appreciate that, and we'll do that in the future.
Well, thank you. Now you can do your budget.
Yeah.
So something that came up, it didn't come up, is we have a contract renewal for our EMS educational services, which is with Tim Redding's company, which is
Emergency Education Consultants.
Yeah, something like that. And I just got the contract in an email today to renew for next year. The signature, I think I came and requested permission last year, and so I'm requesting permission again. There's I think it's 3% more than it was last year, so it's, that number's reflected in the budget.
Move to extend the contract to,
I got a question
Oh.
first. Is that the one that comes under what, fire education services contract? Is that what that comes under?
It's like 3,000.
Line 677.
3,600 and change.
3690.
Yep.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, fire education service
yeah,
contract.
I think it's
Yeah.
further down than.
3690, okay.
yeah, 677 is the line.
Yep, okay.
Can I continue?
Yeah.
Move to extend the contract to Emergency Education Consultants, I think that's what it is, EEC. Tim Redding, for the, the year 2018, for the amount of $36.90.
Second.
I have one question before. Is that just covers, that contract just covers that line item just covers that educational contract
it
at
covers-
$36.90, it doesn't?
Correct, it covers his services, which essentially is 3 hours per month for 12
Emergency
months.
Education
And that provides,
Consultants, I think. I'll look it up.
the continuing
I have
education
it
component
saved
for
because
our
I need it, or if I
I
EMT.
just
forgot
wanna
it
make
so
sure
well.
you weren't cutting yourself short, you had some other, because it says, education service contract, or there was something else in there too. that-
No,
okay.
that's just for his services and,
Okay, great. Aye.
Aye.
Who
did
seconded
you
it?
have
I'm
a
sorry, John.
question?
John did.
No, no,
Thanks, Chief.
I was saying aye.
Yeah, Emergency
Chief.
Education
I have a
Consultants.
question, doesn't relate to this, but it relates to the warrant articles.
Yes.
And, you're proposing
Good.
that we change the language on the special revenue fund for vehicles to include equipment. What equipment do you see, I think it came up the other night when we were speaking with Finance Committee, what equipment do you see as being part of that? Are you talking about like turnout gear or, there's a separate fund, or there was, for air packs, or are we gonna do away with that and have air packs as part of the special revenue fund in the future?
I think looking at the capital improvement program as it exists currently, so that revenue fund, as you know, is the strings attached to it is it's to be used for replacement vehicles.
Right.
The language change would be to amend that purpose to include the ability to purchase equipment out of it. So I think in one of the out years coming up is thermal imaging cameras, for instance. And the way that fund is, the conditions set on that fund now, we could not purchase thermal imaging cameras out of that. And so I feel it's a tool, or it's an option to be able to, really kind of to the taxpayer's benefit, that we could use that money to offset some of those capital costs as well.
That Jaws of Life, if you needed it again, or a different one, or an additional one, things like that.
Right, or even in just for the sake of the conversation, if we had that ability this past year, the SCBA purchase might have been, we might have been able to offset some of that cost, or maybe absorb all of that cost. But we have to be mindful of the fact that, the real intent of that is that we have money for the very large capital purchases that come down the road in a vehicle. And so, we would have to do that due diligence and plotting out some of those expenses, that we don't deplete the account to where we can't use it for, those really big ones. But it would give us the, I think it's a tool or an option that we could use in the future.
But you're not talking about what helmets, gear?
No, because I don't see, I don't think that rises to the capital. I mean, I guess
Okay, that's
we
probably a
could
good way to
discuss
phrase it.
that, but it was really kind of more looking at, and to be honest, it wasn't intended to maybe replace a line that was in the operating budget currently, but some of those items that we use the word asset, where we're looking at purchasing an asset. Does that make sense?
It might, it might be different if we did, outfit the whole department with new gear, but with the current model we're running, we're doing, 5 to 10 sets a year?
Right now, the maintenance part of that is $10,000 a year. That probably buys you 5 sets.
Yeah. So it's more of it's staggered, so, again, I do agree. Now, what is the next projected vehicle purchase year?
Just by the numbers, it's engine 5 in 2023.
Okay.
So that would be 20 years out from its purchase date. We've kind of used that as a target when we put together kind of the projection of you know, when we, was it 2 years ago? We started looking at that, with that purchase in mind to say, you know, we really want to be able to have that money in the bank rather than go to the voters and say, you know, we need $500,000 for a
Truck, right.
So,
On the wording of that article, I didn't mean to interrupt
Nope,
you when you finished. Naomi, for another article that we wanted to amend, I think our attorney said that if it's an amendment to a present capital reserve fund, then we would have to have 2/3 vote or 60%. Now, is that true for the special revenue fund, the same as it was for the capital reserve fund?
Because we just changed it, last 2 years ago, again, for the per diems to put them in the operating budget?
no, we didn't have to.
No, we didn't change it, we just.
That was a
we just
revolving
streamed
fund.
the revenue.
Right.
Right.
That was a revolving
change it.
fund
Okay.
for the per diems.
We just changed how much was going in there when we
Yeah.
took the first 90 for.
So it would require
Okay.
60%.
Right.
Would be my assumption.
If we
Okay.
wanted to change the.
Yeah, and we're still, you know, formulating that whole discussion, but that's something that, that we've talked about for a
Yeah.
year now. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. I wasn't being negative, I just wanted to clarify.
Nope, I appreciate that.
Any other questions?
Thanks, chief.
Thank you.
Okay, will we go to the top of the list now?
Well, I guess, what I'd like to do is, before you go to the top of the list, you can fill in a blank that we've been all waiting for, is the assessing.
No.
Oh,
Assessing,
the assessment.
the big number, bigger than the placeholder.
Oh, no.
Hmm?
I don't like that.
So, if you take one,
Ah!
if you take one and pass one down.
Take one, be scared.
Wendy and I did our best to decipher. You guys, each had a copy of what we were presented. So what we tried to do as best we could, put together the companies, put together the costs, and we'll go from there. So there was also 25 questions that were asked of them, because it didn't look like it was apples to apples. So putting them together from smallest to largest, I guess you'd say. The first one was really pretty cover, pretty picture. Summed it up in one page, basically. Told you how much you're going to pay a month and how much parcel. So we had to pull the rest of the information from the questions. So I kind of discount that as a, you know, he didn't complete what he was told anyway. But on top of that, they recommend that we contract separately to have somebody do the utilities. They also, one of the questions was to have the PDF cards done annually, which is part of the other ones. He was going to do that as a filler for office time. Then the another one, and I'm reading underneath, the price didn't include utility value report. So, and then I just said it just appears too low from the other two bids. It just, we all know low bid's not always our best answer. So with that being said, I moved on to the next one. This one was actually a little bit more closer, other than, you can see the numbers. The price that's given here, though, doesn't include any campgrounds. They're going to do the campgrounds separately at $60 an hour. Now, keep in mind that Cold Springs has at least 250, and I'm not sure how many Autumn Hills has. So $60 an hour for the difference in the two contracts can add up. The other thing he's not doing that he would contract out with Avatar is to do, when it comes time to do the website and do the preliminary posting and the letters and everything else. He's going to contract with Avatar, so that's going to be a separate fee. And last, the difference between the two is $16,910, and that's without the campgrounds and without the fee for the reevaluation year. So the total annual cost, if you take the $423,250 divided by 5, you come up with the $84,650 with the unknowns, which I don't like unknowns. So let's drop down to the bottom one, which is your current assessor. The price is all inclusive of everything. The price also includes 2 full days, which is what Wendy had asked for. These also include 2 full days up above. And the annual cost is $88,032. There was no exceptions, there was no anything. So you're looking at a difference of the 16,910, but it's a little bit more each year. So that's where you are.
And then would we have to change the other, like, on the tax collector side, would we have to do anything there different from Avatar?
If we don't pick Avatar?
Yes.
That wasn't a question that Wendy had asked them.
No, she only uses the software.
Yeah.
Keep the
Okay.
software.
Okay.
Yeah, we would still keep the software. And I think most of them do that.
And questions, I mean, what about, like if they have questions and so forth, I mean, is that?
Well, most of them use the
all-inclusive?
Avatar software.
Okay.
Yeah.
All inclusive, okay.
Yeah. So it's, I guess, what after all this, all the reading and what we could pull from all these things was, you know, do you want to go with some unknown costs or do you want to stay where you are? I think Jack's phrase earlier was devil you know versus
Better off
devil you
to
don't
start
know.
with the devil you know than the devil you don't. And in this instance, yeah, I mean, you're looking, what,
It's less than
$4,000 difference
I want to keep
between
in
the
mind
two,
that
but
you're
that
going to look at
doesn't-
the price from the 16 number,
Yeah.
17 number, and you're going to look at the 18 number and say, oh my God, it's higher. But keep in mind, it's got 2 days now, not 1.
Yeah.
There was a price given for 1 day, but the apples to apples was 2 days.
But this, right here, this bottom line price for Avatar is the actual cost.
Actual cost
Per
for
year.
everything. No, that's for 5 years. This
No, but I'm
440.
saying, you're talking
It's
about
88,032 for a year.
per year.
So,
I don't
but
understand what you're talking about, the 17, 18 thing.
Remember we had 1 day in the office?
Right,
The change was to make 2 days in the office. It
Right.
didn't seem to be enough.
but that 2 days is included in this bottom line.
It's
right?
Yeah.
2 days
Yes.
included in everybody's. I left it
Okay,
alone.
that's what I
so
wanted.
the number's not going to go up then.
Now, if you look at
It's
that,
77 something.
Oh,
for
I'm sorry, yeah.
comparison,
73.
you're talking
74.
tax rate impact by choosing Avatar of less than 0.5%.
Looking at it that way, sure.
Yeah, so, you know, it's not a plus.
But it is, just to make a note, it's about $15,000 more a
Okay.
year than you paid,
I mean, I'm looking at, you're looking at.
right? You paid
okay.
$73,000 this year.
Well,
You're gonna
I-
look at paying $88,032.
My comparison was looking at vendor number 2 compared to vendor
Mhm.
number 3.
Right.
Yes.
It only amounts to the difference there
True.
of less than 0.5%
Yeah.
over on the tax rate. If we chose the higher number, which takes away all the unknowns,
Right.
so in fact, it's probably cheaper.
Well, in the first one, let me just show you, the first one, that 350 is roughly the pickups of new construction. There wasn't even a price given. So we're just not gonna pick them up.
I mean,
You know what I mean? There was a lot of holes.
I mean, you look at the total bottom line, except for 2021, of their yearly.
Right, well, they all do it, that's the reaevaluation
No,
year,
I'm
so
just
there's a
saying,
lot more
they're
involved.
all, I mean, the prices, except for the top one, which I'm not even looking at, but 2 and 3. I mean, number 3 is still cheap. I mean, in most of it, except towards,
Well,
Except for the
there's
reevaluation
each
year.
year and then the
in the
reevaluation.
reevaluation.
But there's
I
a
mean,
lot more involved in a
that's right.
reevaluation.
And the
Because
thing that
they
I'm
have
looking at is
meetings with
where
some
Right.
people
we don't
and-
have the campgrounds, and we got 2 campgrounds,
With about
Three.
300 plus
Oh.
parcels.
parcels,
Yeah.
and I mean, so.
And that's at $60 an hour.
$60 an hour, I said, we
In
don't
the
know
second
what that
choice.
variable, that could be, you could be adding another
Yeah.
big figure to that,
Correct.
so.
The reevaluation years figured into the fixed yearly cost.
Yeah, what we
There's no
do is we
balloon,
don't do we do it for one fix for 5 years.
like, rather than a
We
balloon
don't do
cost.
the one number, one number, one number, one number, one number. So we
That's
just
where I
do
was
it-
misunderstanding.
Yeah, we just did a steady.
Now I understand, right.
So that does fill your. I think that's the last hole we had, right? For placeholder.
Is there,
Oh, the alarm.
The difference a year, basically, is only like $3,300,
Exactly.
yeah, right.
Yeah, it was
So-
under the 4, yeah.
so it's nothing.
Less,
So when you add it all up, even though they'll hit you for 193 in the reevaluation year, when you look at it, you're still way ahead of the game, 'cause they're not telling you what the campgrounds are.
Right,
Right.
there's a variable there
Number
that
two
you
is
don't
only
have.
gonna chew up 56 hours on those campgrounds and everything.
Yeah.
They're gonna do 2 campgrounds, 56 hours?
Two,
You know,
don't we have three?
$60 an hour, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, out of 300 sites, how long is it gonna take them to do it? You know?
Well, Cold Springs got over 400 sites.
Yep.
Still two.
So,
Yeah, plus all the paperwork goes with it.
Right.
yeah, so
Yeah.
we're looking
So
at,
they're gonna be way over.
oh, yeah, I mean, you're gonna be putting,
So do we hear a
well
motion?
on that at some point.
So that fills almost all the gaps.
Mhm.
I know you've been waiting on that, and we finally had time to decide.
So we need a motion.
Make a motion that we, for our assessing contract, according to the RFP, that we contract with Avatar Associates for the grand total over a 5-year period of $440,160.
Second.
I think we just include a fixed annual rate.
Fixed annual rate of $88,032 per year.
Which makes it sound more palatable.
Well, I said over a 5-year period, so.
You seconded it.
All right,
Aye.
with that being said, I
All
need,
in favor?
Aye.
and I
Aye.
need
Aye.
one, there's only one place for signature.
Move to have the chairman of the board, sign the,
Actually, no, it's a
Agreement.
proposal, she'll have to send one without the words through it, so we'll do that.
all right, but we can still hold it if they send it over, Tom can swing by.
If you wanna make that motion, so when she sends it,
Yeah,
I can have it.
yeah, move to have the chairman sign the agreement with Avatar when it comes in.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
All right,
So that number's gonna be,
that number's gonna be 88,032.
What number down the side is that?
it is, number 78 on this.
Yeah, line 590, but it's Excel spread line 78.
78, it's gonna be 88,032.
That's the one.
Which one is it? Which one's it on the outside?
78, they said, I don't have that one.
So it's what,
On the wrong page,
14,032
this one.
added to?
Assessing Avatar contracts. So that number would now be
Hey, you gave me this last one.
88032?
88,032, then Beth?
I didn't get this
Mhm.
one. This
Beth,
is the one I'm working
under
on.
that contract number, it'd now be 88,32.
032.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was working on 12 ones.
So the bottom line number is, 123,794.
Bottom line of the whole.
Assessing, total
Assessing.
assessing.
Yep. Okay.
So we can start at the top, if you would like.
Could you repeat that number for me, please?
Sure, 123,794.
I mean, we can start at the top and see how far you go. Remember, we're still gonna be here Saturday, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, including 10 minutes.
I was just gonna say
Yeah.
the game starts.
Set the timer.
The game starts in 10 minutes.
We'll give it 20.
Set the timer, we'll be up right there.
Celtics are already on.
Yeah.
See?
Well, we,
Yeah, the Pats are beyond at 8:30, yeah.
All right, so we'll start at the top on page 1.
Yeah.
And I guess, we can go down through things, but, I mean, if you want to, you know,
We'll let
we
you
can
know if
talk about the
anything's
increases or
changed, but-
decreases, or if you have any issues, I guess.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
Well, for the first few,
yeah, we kinda,
it's, you know, town offices doesn't change.
Right.
right.
Town officers, it's,
It's gone down.
yeah, so, so there's no need to get into that.
Yeah, that's right. I think you're right.
Elections, we really can't.
No, 'cause there's
alter
3 elections.
Yep.
It goes up with the number of elections, so.
Mhm.
Tax collector, we've already done the figures related to the salaries. So is there anything else there that we should talk about under
You
tax
have a choice of $100 for supplies, that's the only, one's a contract, the rest is wages.
Yep.
I got nothing.
So all good on that?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can do a lot in 10 minutes.
You guys have already seen these, so.
Yeah.
Right.
The assessing, we just finished, I think, the one spot that we were waiting on. If you look at assessing, a good share of it is, the first part has to do with the wages.
Yeah.
The next one that we had a placeholder for, we just filled, and the others, I mean, we're talking 700 and, it's gonna be more than that, but it's the contract from above.
Yeah.
So,
We're
I'm at line 84 to your far left, at the total
80.
line,
total, okay.
because you've got some minuses up there.
Yep.
Legal,
Yeah, can we talk about that?
let's have a conversation.
Yeah,
No, he wants to talk about it.
Yeah.
I do too.
Well, I mean, in my short tenure on the board here, I've never seen that number as realistic,
Right.
ever.
What, for legal fees?
Yes, line 87 in the spread and line 320.
Yep.
I've never seen it close to that number. I mean, you know, the first year I was here, it was
16 was
well
this
over that.
Right. 16 was close.
It was close, but it wasn't there, and it was still not there in 17. It was not there in 15. I myself think that to be realistic, at least put another 10,000 on that line.
I agree.
To be realistic.
Oh, that's the conversation we knew we were gonna have to have. I
Yep.
mean, we
I
talked
agree.
about this right from the start. We've always left it alone and hoped for the best.
I think that line, you know, we're talking, obviously, there's only 5 lines in this, but I think labor relations line 001, I think that is a decent number to leave there. I think that's, you know, we've had 2 years of pretty close, so if it goes either side of it by $5,000, it is what it is, but,
So you're looking at the legal fee from 20 to go to 30?
I think that'd be a good start, and reevaluating at this time 18, because we've just never been that close to it.
I agree.
So the volume would be 72?
I mean, I wish it was 0. Honestly, I wish the whole line, every line was 0 in that section. But unfortunately, this is the way that
We have a couple left.
it's a municipality, and this is, we need the legal stuff to function.
As long as we don't have it like 2015 under the labor relations part of it.
Pay no mind.
Yeah. So do you, I mean, was
Yeah.
everybody's all set with that, Tom?
So if we go with the, you're saying you're recommending 72 for the bottom line.
Bottom line,
Yeah.
correct.
10 grand on that other line.
Right, adding 10 to that.
I think,
And then an increase of.
To 30,000.
Right.
Then, Naomi, if you can look at ratios of where it was spent above and maybe adjust them accordingly, because where, for example,
Well, I was just-
ZBA
Mm-hmm.
was overspent this year.
Yeah.
And
But it was underspent the year before.
Yep.
Right, that seems like a yo-yo.
See, I think that one's depending on caseload. I think if you honestly put the 10 into the first line, that's probably where the best fit is.
Yes.
straight legal fees.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
because you see you had 43, 27, 57.
Doesn't.
So we're gonna change legal fees to 30 instead of
Correct.
Yes.
It's simple, and it really, wherever it falls is okay, because it's the bottom line we're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay.
Flip
This
the
one we
page.
gotta look at.
This one.
Yeah.
Gotta watch
Yeah.
out for this one.
Especially line 150. Yeah.
Way overinflated.
Wow.
Fine.
So, yeah.
Looks fine to me.
There is, I mean,
What's this, trip to Tahiti?
Yeah.
Oh, that was Bahamas. I'm sorry, that was a typo.
How's that one-time purchase line?
one time.
Yeah.
I'll go up to bid for it though.
One way.
Sounds good.
So those, the changes basically are all, most all.
Salary,
Payroll.
except for the two, one is software, and then the one is $25 more for the GFOA.
Mhm.
The next one, the town clerk's very self-explanatory. There's actually a decrease in postage. The rest are And there's a decrease in the
Decrease.
telephone.
'Cause
The
of
rest are
that.
payroll related.
Okay.
Selectmen's office, we did, let's see, where did we end up? Actually, in the negative. I mean, we give them money back.
$300.
A good share of that has to do with your new contract for your audit.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you picked up the difference there.
Just on a side note question, for line 111, are we making any progress on that?
111.
Well, it's spreadsheet 135.
We have not put it out yet. I
Okay.
just thought we'd get through the end of the year and put it out.
Okay, that's
But I
fine.
think, I guess, I'm gonna throw that out now that you've asked the question. I think we have to have a larger discussion about help in general, okay?
About what?
Transcriber wages.
Wages, yeah.
There's transcriber wages in ours, there's transcriber
ZBAs.
wages in planning and
Planning and
zoning and
zoning.
land use. There's transcriber wages in park and rec and
Conservation.
conservation. So you're talking, looking for somebody, it would be nice to think we could find one person to do the 8 days a month that you
Mm.
need it. But at the same time, a couple years ago, if you remember, we cut staff. I'll just use the assessing department. We had 2 people, 70 hours. We got one person doing it 40 hours. Same thing when I was promoted, you asked Chip to do my job, so Chip does planning, zoning, and building. We have nobody on, if somebody's out for an extended leave of some reason, I'll just say right now, Beth and I make sure that somebody's here, because we have somebody out. I don't know how long they'll be out. So it would be nice to find a person, and at the same time, I guess a floater is what I was kind of leaning towards, and the floater could maybe be the minute taker and do the minutes while they were here, but at the same time, if somebody called in sick, just to go answer the phone's a huge help, or to get the walk-ins that come. You know, in the meantime, for instance, myself, between Beth and I, we got the walk-ins from Public Works, you know, our office, welfare will come up and ask questions, things like that, or just a catch-all. But when there's 2 of us here, sometimes one of us here, you know, it takes away. So I'm not sure where we want to go with that, but if you take all the money you've got put in transcriber wages, you probably could find somebody. Maybe if you added a few more hours, I'm just saying. Because we always had Chip and me and the town administrator. You always had, you know, somebody in assessing full-time, building had 30 hours. We're going to also run into the problem, Benji's going to be going down to the highway department. We split a secretary 2020 because it's been convenient. And now he needs somebody, and it's going to have to be down there. And right now, Beth and I help him if somebody's out. You know, type a memo or do whatever. Not that we're not willing to help, we've reached a point that, you know, something's gotta give.
You're gonna have to
Do you have any idea what this transcriber thing all adds up to?
Not off the top of my head, because I wasn't prepared for that tonight, but I'm just saying, I think we need to have a bigger discussion as to, Benji's gonna need somebody down there, and the phone can't ring up here, and it can't be handled here. He always had somebody at 30 hours a week. I think it's time we go back to giving him somebody 30 hours a week. Then you cross the line and say, okay, if the job was split, what do you do? You know, is that person, you're gonna hire a person, but then, you know, what do we do on my end of the office? Are you gonna increase that, leave it at 40 and increase to 30? It's a hard discussion, I get it, but at the same time, I think there's enough that
I think that,
sickness happens.
Yeah.
Right now, we're living it.
I think that I wasn't crazy about the idea of splitting your secretary with somebody else, because it had always been different than that. And, you know, we had highway, and what was she split with?
Highway was just 30 for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah,
and,
just Sue.
And then we had a tax collector in highway,
Right.
which, you know, really lowered the amount of time for each.
Right.
And that didn't work out.
Mhm.
So,
But we talk about giving up a position. I mean, we talk about holding it for $20 to give up a position. We honestly cut wages when the assessing department went from, 2 people to 1. 70 hours a week to 40 hours a week. That was a huge difference. She could use somebody certain times of the year.
Oh, yeah.
When abatements applications come in, and when it's right now with taxes and camping assessments and everything else.
are you saying we should look at something that combines, that's just a floater for this building, or we got highway into the discussion? Did
Well,
you
I
read that?
personally would like to see Benji's highway secretary restored at 30, regardless of who. That person with 30 hours a week worked down there. At the same time, I was thinking the need in this building for a minute taker and someone that could help out could take up all those lines. I'm not prepared to give you that number, but Saturday I'd be happy to put that number together for you. I just think we have to have this conversation because we're living it since December 1st right now.
We also, on that line, in Selectmen's office, we have to come to an agreement as far as your own.
Sure.
In order to have a bottom line.
Yep.
For the coming year.
So, I mean, he opened the door, and I think it's something we should talk about and enhance on, because Benji is gonna be going down there, and have somebody down there for people to come down. And, I mean, years ago when I worked down there, I was always fixed down there, and if somebody came in with a road problem, or somebody came in for a driveway inspection, or called, or there was a complaint, you could radio them. You know what I'm saying? It was just that, it's that easy, but.
So you did highway, you were at the old garage?
I was.
Lovely environment.
That was, memory's gone now.
You're gonna put her back into post-traumatic stress and shock or something.
No. Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
crying.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm
See,
sweating. I'm sweating in here.
Just thinking about it.
She's having flashbacks.
Flashback
Yeah.
to the gas and diesel fuel.
Miss those, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's a real discussion that we have to have, because, I mean, when we pick up the gap, Beth and I mean, something else is, you know what I mean? There's not an opportunity to do everything in a day, because there's not enough hours
Yeah,
in a
with
day.
him moving over there, you can't have Mary run back and forth, or you can't keep having the phone over here ring for him.
So it's a discussion, I think, that we could have more Saturday.
Yep.
But I can add it all together and we can see where it goes.
Sure.
I mean, I just would like the opportunity to add the 30 hours back to just Benji, instead of giving him 20. See, let's just open
It's
it
getting
up.
warmer.
I know, it is warm there.
Yeah, we gotta look at, again, getting back to, maybe we could take a little bit of time on Saturday to discuss with you, if do it in non-public and do that.
Yeah.
Because we've got just Saturday and Monday, and then the following week is Christmas.
Which I'd like to meet Wednesday instead of Monday.
We'd like to meet Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday night, the 27th.
Wednesday is what, 27th.
I think we can't go without a week.
No, that's okay. I might be a little sleepy. I gotta drop my son off
Oh.
that morning at 4 a.m. or something like that. and then-
Don't have decaf, have regular.
Have the high test.
Get a 50-50 shot next time.
Get some of that monster, what do they call it, Red Bull.
Okay, well, you
Yeah.
can just throw a book at me or something. Hit me with a gavel if I'm sleeping that night.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay.
You hit me with a gavel?
No, no.
That's recorded.
Wow.
No, it wasn't.
Here we go.
But I
Okay,
think we should have a general discussion about some staff, because, things aren't getting slower.
Okay,
No,
why don't we,
not in this town.
make a commitment then, if we wanna meet on the 27th, is that okay with everybody here?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so why don't we put that in the book? So is finance committee meeting that night too? or-
I don't think they've
I have
looked
to
that
check
far
with my
ahead.
social secretary, but 27.
That'd be the week of Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, so transcriber wages, I guess we'll just hold on that one, because we
Yeah.
have other things to talk about.
I think we've exceeded our 10 minutes.
You've exceeded 10 minutes? Oh, yeah, we have.
Yep.
Well, some of them we can speed through.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Cable committee, do we need
there's no changes,
No
no change in
changes.
trustees.
Land use.
Land use is 563, but again, a good share of that's wages except for $106.
I want to go back a little bit, back to the cable committee.
Yeah.
Personally, I'd like to, I mean, if everything's running status quo up there, it's great, but I'd like to see them spend a little bit more money of their operating lines.
The only thing we really bill from here is our monthly cable bill, correct, Beth? Because there is, there is money for equipment in the capital reserve fund.
Yeah, quite a bit.
There is a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Did they get any equipment?
Supplies, I can't tell you when we bought supplies, I don't remember, I can look at what 16s were.
Right.
But the contracted service is your monthly fee to Comcast.
And that's fine.
And then your repairs and training, I haven't seen a request for repairs or training.
I mean, we've
Just
only
hired somebody new, so I'm sure they probably haven't seen it yet. Right.
and that, yeah, and like I said, I mean,
Hired
it's
somebody
Yeah,
for the
do you have a
cable.
suggestion?
no. I just like this. I mean, you know, they spent about half their budget in 16 and a quarter in 15, and we're not even on track to be a quarter this year. And you know, I'm sure that this is training opportunities and equipment that you know they'd like to buy. It's out there.
When do they usually build their last, Beth? You know, off the top of your head. I'm asking the impossible, probably.
The cable contract service,
Yeah.
monthly?
They
Or two
do,
more.
but I mean, if they got any
It's
big expenditures coming out
15.
for this.
Yeah, 14,
It's like
17 or something.
$15.95 or something really
Yeah.
cheap a month.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I have no intention of touching their numbers. I just, you know, kind of like seeing.
Like them to use it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I can ask.
I'd like to see them further themselves. That's all.
Okay.
If there's the possibilities out there.
So land use, like I said, a good share of that is
We're all set on that?
Yeah.
town hall office buildings. You've got the 10-hour per week person. You've got the
I
which
think that,
is yes.
have we really come to a decision on that? Or
No, I think that's a
On-
Saturday discussion.
On what?
The maintenance.
Government building, the
Yeah.
idea of having a maintenance person?
I don't think we've actually come to a final. I mean,
No.
we did it that night as a placeholder, but I think the discussion, and that can go into
Saturday.
Saturday's discussion
Yeah.
of personnel.
So
Yeah.
I think we're ready to check that off as being.
No.
No.
Cemeteries,
It's usually the contract.
Yep. Oh, yeah, second part of the contract's the big increase. How much you change there?
Mm-hmm.
are those solid numbers
Those
on
are
the
solid numbers for
insurances?
insurances. It a decrease.
Perfect. That's what we like to see.
Advertising, those are the numbers, the dues are the numbers. The $500, honestly, we use that for advertising, but that's for like the budget hearing, and next week you got a road that you're gonna be accepting for town maintained
Oh,
road.
public
It's the
hearings.
legal notices
Mm-hmm.
that I mean, we need to put them in the paper.
Oh, that's fine.
So I don't know how many I'm gonna have, so we've left $500 alone for a long time. You've already gone down to the police department, correct?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Emergency management, I think we heard that $23 was his increase.
I don't know, boy, that's a biggie.
You want to bring that up on Saturday?
Yeah.
That was great, actually.
Did you put that one out to bid, chief?
Fire department brings you on to page 8.
Yep. Yeah, cool. That's right.
Code enforcement, basically, we've talked about the revenue earner, about the copier, that big large copier that we bought. But there is expenses to it, even though there is earnings as well. It's gone over very well to make those new, I gotta buy ink already, to make the
The
full
plans.
size. Yeah, people are paying the $5 for the plans, you know, to make that
That's
big full
probably cheap.
size. Oh, it probably is, but I'm just saying, so it's increased there.
Did you make town maps on that
Yeah, she can.
for $5?
She can print off like your septic.
10.
Yeah. That's your selectman discount, Stan.
But a good share
Double
of
it.
that is an increase with wages, decreased life insurance by $1. The software is an increase of $180, and then like I said, the revenue earner, which is the copier. The fuel is the number that we've selected.
Yep.
And $100, not sure why he's not accepting, the state's not accepting new codes, that's why. So that's where your 1890 totals up. You're okay with that?
Yeah.
Forest fires, that's, honestly, we don't know who's gonna create them or how many we're gonna have.
Oh, yeah, it's a variable.
Who's going to create it? There's a 50% grant.
Right, it's 50%
We
right.
could, unless you don't end up like
Highway Department,
California.
I believe, we've talked about, but I think we need to have a bigger conversation about, to your far left, 426. I would like to see that actually purchased this year at the end of the year with the money that we've anticipated to have left. I'd like to take that off of that because, I do have, Benji and I went, and I have one quote, I apologize, but I went to the used furniture place in Manchester with Benji, and we didn't order anything, we just got a quote, an estimate, and for all his office furniture is $4,483. I'd like to call them and tell them that they can deliver it the week of the 18th. I mean, it is, then, we also got the base station, so between the base station quote, which I apologize, I could pull it up on my phone, this, and there's gonna be 2 computers and a laptop, is where that $11,000.
Now, is he getting, what, just a one base station, or is he gonna get the?
There's
he
been
was looking for
discussion of
3.
4,
Or 3, I thought he was.
because just keep in mind, we got one way down the end,
Yep.
that, if they're in the bay, and then that door's on, you gotta go through the door to get to
Yeah,
the
no,
mechanics garage.
I'm not disputing, I'm just saying, it says.
Then
you
there's
said
one in the lunchroom and one in
So-
Benji's office.
Yeah, so you was looking for
The total is 4.
4.
But the $11,000 will cover the base stations, tables, the chairs,
Okay, so
and the
it's all,
computers.
it's all,
because I need a laptop for the mechanic.
yeah.
So I would, I guess we can look at what we are anticipating for year end.
No, I mean,
And I think we should take it out of there
I agree with that.
and reduce
Because, I
his
mean,
by
he's
11.
gonna,
There might be
Yeah.
some other things in other departments' budgets.
Yeah, and
because he can't go sit on the
Christmas is
floor.
around the corner, so we've had wish lists.
I mean, if he's gonna be moving into the building, let him sit on the floor and, get a tin can and a string and yell at the trucks. I
Right,
mean, he's
right.
kinda stuck, so. I
No,
mean,
and that's why I'd like to go ahead and let these guys, because they're gonna deliver and assemble. It's all part of it.
That's even
They
better.
deliver and assemble for 0. So the 4483 is the total.
And the rest is the computers and.
The rest would be the computers and the
And
base
radios.
stations with another 4,000, but that's from our current R&R guy.
Mhm.
Because the CAD 5 cable, they've already put in there.
Yep.
And all of that, so.
And how many computers, I'm sorry?
It'd be 2, one for the secretary, one for Benji, and a laptop for
Tom.
Tom, the mechanic,
Yeah.
because the laptop, we're gonna become of an age where you're gonna have to plug into the.
Yeah, he's got
the
equipment he
vehicles.
has to plug into and
Right.
out of service.
Right.
And there will be
With a new truck, he won't.
there'll be reoccurring fees with the software too.
Yep.
Probably around $4,000 a year.
There's proprietary
If not more.
software for each one that you have to like put
Mhm.
up there
But
and
I think,
Well, they had,
Western Star.
they were inspecting vehicles.
No,
No.
this is,
No,
this is
is
to
for
do service.
the diagnostic equipment.
Diagnostics. You actually, if you wanna tune it up, you have to take the computer and plug it
Yeah.
in. And it looks at the parameters.
that's why the
of
laptop
race.
would be needed for the mechanic.
Mhm.
Then he could take it back and put it in his desk and shut the door, so.
Yeah, I was thinking in terms
No.
of
No, all these,
emissions on
Right.
inspections.
Right. There also might be some maintenance records software might be able to put in there too, which might help.
yeah, I mean, these mechanics now and all this heavy equipment.
So if it's all right,
We're all
I
getting
mean,
it.
so to keep moving on this week to get them in, it's gonna take me, they won't get here till the week of the 18th anyway. And that's for the break room, the chairs, 3 desks, 3 chairs,
I don't have a problem with that.
all the office chairs. I mean, the stackable lunchroom chairs.
This is used equipment.
It's new.
It's actually new except for 2 pieces. 2 people. I mean, we can get used, but the front molding's missing, and there's big gouges, and there's stickers on them.
Why would you wanna put used equipment in a
Well, I
brand
wasn't
new
suggesting
building?
that. I was thinking in terms of the discussion we've had every week here, it seems, is the purchasing policy.
Mhm.
And so you know, if it was used equipment, then there really wouldn't be any discussion.
Right, there's two,
because
two
we're
of them
already
are,
gonna get
two
3
pieces
quotes
are
on
used.
Used equipment, so do we,
There's some
is
do
the
we
shared
have-
board,
used.
is the board
It's-
willing to waive it so we can have this?
Do we have time to go get more bids and then, you know, it could
It's
be
still-
another 2 weeks?
I don't care if it's new or used, it's still a purchase over $1,000. I don't care how you cut it.
No, but I think we could waive it. In this instance, those
Yeah.
guys need the furniture down there.
That's up to the board.
I don't think,
Well, I'm asking it, I guess R&R and the computers are coming from our vendors.
Right, that you can't escape
So,
those. Nope, it'd
I'm
only be.
asking what you wanna do with the furniture, cause I got an estimate.
I don't have a problem waiving it, but we need a motion to waive it. I think, I don't think I know we do.
I mean, I'd like to be able to do that, but I really agree with Ricky because we're trying to stick with,
but I mean,
Okay.
you're gonna put somebody
So
into a
next
new.
week, next Monday, I'll try to come back with, and that's not gonna be delivered until the
Probably
first
after
of the
the
year
first.
probably.
And I mean, now you're gonna
do
run
you have the
into,
Mason book? The
No.
Mason catalog?
but you're
I
gonna,
think do they have it over at, ED? Cause they've ordered
We
stuff
usually
out
go
of the
online.
book. Oh,
but I mean, then you're gonna run into an issue of when they can deliver it, when you can get it. And then, I mean, you're gonna run into a Department of Labor issue too, that you're gonna put these guys in the building with no furniture to try and eat or try to do things.
Well, why don't we
That's
do
what I'm
this,
saying.
okay, just to see where everybody stands. I move that we waive the purchase policy so that we can buy this furniture. We'll see where that goes. If we don't have 3 votes, then we gotta get 3 bids. Okay, so is there a second to that motion to waive?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
aye.
You opposed, or are you just leaving us hanging?
Aye.
Aye.
3 to
what?
2.
First part or second part?
First.
To waive it?
So it's 3-2 to waive. Thank
I
you.
mean, I know the purchasing policy, and I
Yep.
agree with it, but I think in this instance we're stuck. Because if not, these guys are gonna be down there with no furniture to sit on. Or we're gonna end up getting junk from the transfer station, and that's where it'll sit.
What's the name of the company?
Surplus office equipment.
I move that we purchase the equipment, surplus office
For
equipment.
$4,483.
Okay, for an amount, $4,418,
$83.
$83.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
He's hanging fire down.
Pulling our chain.
Well,
Yeah,
I agree with Ricky.
I do too, but I think at this
But then again,
point,
I agree with Jack. I mean, they're gonna be in the building with, sitting on the floor.
yeah, and I mean, you'll have to, I mean, and all somebody has to do is pick up the phone, and the State Department of Labor will be down there, and they'll be all over us. You know?
For the record, I'm opposed.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Jan?
Two.
What did you
I said for the record, I'm opposed.
For the record.
Okay, no, thank you.
For this.
And not to the fact that they don't need it.
No,
It's
I didn't
it's out of principle. We
I didn't think that.
Yeah, but we
No,
do-
I agree.
We do have it in our power to waive it, and I think.
No,
we've-
I-
We've covered. the
yeah. We
parameters.
And hopefully it'll take it out of the line item out of the budget, so.
I mean, I understand we waived it when the stairs are falling in out front. I get that, but I don't know.
So that, I'm looking to scratch the $11,000 out of,
The one time.
And the rest of it is from our vendor.
it's
correct?
from the Spalding Hill and from R&O.
Okay.
So what line was that again?
That's 426.
791.
On the side.
Oh,
Yeah.
far left, sorry.
Yeah, 426.
Yeah, you guys flip back and forth, whichever you want to call it.
I keep calling both. I call them both
Okay.
out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Highway
I'd like to
one-time
reduce that
purchase.
one to 0.
You
Go along
piece
with
of
that.
398. How come he has change in his? Don't we round him to the dollar?
Oh, yeah, but when the approved budget goes through, that can't be because of Medicare, Medicare.
Oh.
Because those are exact numbers.
Sorry.
We
Yeah.
try to go 0, 0.
Yeah. If we'll move on from there,
Street lighting.
if you're okay with that. The street lighting, I think we probably have one more month. right, so 4,700 is gonna be very close, so I'm gonna leave it 4,700.
Mhm.
Hope we have more sunny days. Transfer station, Benji was in before. The transfer station, a good share of the transfer station increase total is
Wages.
the new contract that you signed as well, and the wages. You had a large decrease with the monitoring wells, and the alcohol and drug testing, he moved into the highway, because it's really under one umbrella. So,
Did we get any information on 460?
Yeah, the gutter.
460, 430?
I didn't ask him, he hasn't had time, rain gutters.
And is
And
there
the question, let me just ask you, what the question in the rain gutters is cost?
quotes? Yeah, it's gonna be more than $1,000.
Cost and installation, I would
Did
say.
you find it for less than that?
What?
Rain gutters?
Well, you're looking at both sides of the building.
It's gonna be.
Yeah, and how you, it's gonna be
Put 'em in.
substantial.
You gotta put them in.
Yeah,
It's gonna be substantial.
Okay.
yeah.
Now, with that said, John would know best firsthand. Do you feel that line's lacking?
The rain gutters?
No, it's that the gutters is part of the maintenance, but do you feel that line overall of $1,000 a year in building maintenance is lacking?
Yes. Needs a complete new ceiling. Needs insulation up in there.
I'd say this is what.
The heater that's in there, I purchased and got paid back, I understand, but that's probably 10, 12 years old, that propane heater. I mean, still working, but who knows? But it needs a complete ceiling in the place. The floor, you walk in the front, the main door there, the linoleum's all up, it's sawdust board underneath there. And you go down underneath in where the pump station is downstairs, and you look up underneath that main door,
See there,
the
like-
downstairs ceiling's down, the insulation's down, so sooner or later you're gonna go through the floor. So, yeah, I mean, that building's been there since 1989,
90, I gotta say 1990, yeah.
and there's never been anything done to it.
Would you say increase it to by $5,000?
Where are you anyway?
At the very bottom.
The very bottom.
Line
Line
430, building maintenance.
460.
'What's this you said?
460, 430.
Yeah.
Where it's highlighted.
Oh, we're up here.
Mhm.
Um, If that were any other building, wouldn't we be looking at our building and maintenance funds?
For things like the floor and stuff, I would think so.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you're gonna put, and you're saying insulation in the office area, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, that to me is probably not gonna be, I mean, it's not a very big space. What's that office? 10 by
15, 8, 16.
Yeah.
It's not a very big, but it's got the ceiling tiles like this, the roof's leaked and they sag
sagging.
down, the insulation
Yeah.
is fucked up.
So to me, I don't know if that, you know, just being the size that it is, I don't know if that would fall, I mean, I don't know if that would fall under the numbers to really warrant
But I mean,
but I don't know. But I think that honestly, if that's the case, then we need, you know, you're bringing this stuff up, we need to have a serious evaluation of that building.
Yeah, 'cause you have to keep the downstairs insulated and whatnot, because that's where your
The pump room with it.
hydraulic oil and whatnot for your compactors.
Right.
We do have, there's should be an electric heater down there. I don't know if it still works or not, but that originally there was a heater down there.
All right. All right. Well, then maybe I guess I'll suggest bringing up another $500 at this point. I mean, because we spent $1,300 in 2016,
you got two.
and
$2,000 you're looking to spend.
He's gonna go 25.
I was going to go 25.
25, but I mean, you get 2,000 in there now. You're looking at that was up by 1,000. I'd go at least $3,000. I'd make it to 3,000. So make it up another. You get 2,000 there.
I mean, because I think that building maintenance line covers the
Put it on
where the recyclables go and everything. Correct? Yeah. So.
Yeah, I was thinking in terms of if it was this building or another building in town and the roof was leaking and the tiles need to be replaced, and we'd probably say,
Well, I'll have
get 3 estimates,
Right.
and we'll go to the
I'll avenue that one more
government
because
building and maintenance fund.
police and fire have their own building maintenance lines and they're a lot bigger than that. So I think that particular line rolls back into our conversation for Saturday of building maintenance as a
I wanna
whole.
leave it alone.
For now, we'll leave it alone. That's my suggestion, but to roll that one into
Yep.
that whole
We're
envelope.
talking about the same thing, Rick. You understand, what I'm saying is if it were a project that,
Right.
well, replacing a ceiling and fixing
Right,
the roof.
no,
and all
I get
that,
it.
You get through the estimates and
Mhm.
take it out of the public building maintenance fund, not out of.
Right, their line,
like this,
right.
Which is for the little stuff that needs to be repaired.
Right, but again,
Well, I mean, that's, you're talking little stuff, the floor falling apart isn't really little, or the roof leaking and the ceiling falling isn't little.
Department of
but-
Labor will
Yeah,
be
that's
there.
exactly.
I mean, it's another one, the Department of Labor will be down there, and there will be,
I don't know if they fixed the roof leaking, but I had
but I mean,
pails around there a couple years when I was down there when it was raining.
but floor,
I don't know if it's ever been fixed.
the floor giving way and stuff, I mean, that's. Like, when was the last time the furnace was serviced?
Downstairs?
well,
Either one of them.
Well, upstairs, it's fairly easy, fairly simple. It's on propane heater, that's all it is.
So we're not done with transfer station.
that is correct, especially I would asterisk that 460 line.
And sewer, pretty straightforward. It's a reduction, but the biggest reduction has to do before Benji got his certified to be able to do it. We had a company
Testing.
doing our water testing.
Yep.
So that's a decrease total. Water. Water's a decrease of $92.
Okay, how much further do we wanna go tonight?
We're almost done.
Oh, okay, so we're.
Animal control, I think we have to have a bigger discussion on Saturday, I guess.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Health is down 240. Really hasn't really changed much. We've decreased some of the lines that she's not really using. So there's a decrease in total of 240 over the whole department, or whole budget. Welfare, I'll knock on wood right now. I'm not looking at changing in it because we've done well with the town assistants right now. In other years, we haven't done as well, but I think we've done very, very well this year. And like I said, that's why I knock on wood. I would not decrease it because God only knows. That doesn't take long to eat up much.
I'd like to have a future conversation about that.
About assistants
Just yeah,
or the department in general.
department in general.
Okay. Parks and Rec. I think largely their increase has to do with the repairs because of vandalism. And then the ad for $4,000 for the park maintenance, because we built the parks and we just don't maintain or put sufficient money away.
Mm-hmm.
There are organizations that do use it, and they've partnered. When the football was there and John Stark Lacrosse and all of them, they pay for a lot of the calcium to the roads, the grading, the seeding, the whole thing. But again, you pay to play, so you're really paying to do the fields. And I think we built the fields, we need to maintain them, and I think that's where we're going here. So that's where largely of your 5433 is.
When you say the increased vandalism, is that
Well,
down at
we had one in
Innocent
incidents.
Park
Yeah,
where
we
they've
had
got
one.
donuts and stuff?
But, I mean, it's not just that, the playground gets vandalized every
Yeah.
year. So, that's, like I said, that's largely. The library, Mike was waiting, Mike's gonna turn in his budget. He said he didn't know what we're supposed to turn in.
I have this budget.
Didn't he just ask me tonight for it?
Oh.
What?
Is that
This is the
reflected here?
Well, I don't know. That's the number that he gave you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, so this one's.
Alright, he's supposed to send over something, so
hold up,
it may or may
till
not
Saturday.
change. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay.
He gave it to me September 13th.
Okay, patriotics, it's always been the same. That's the flag holders, I believe.
Yeah.
With flags.
They haven't come in for that this year?
What's that? Actually, the $500, Beth, for patriotic.
That's your, what's
Yeah.
yours, for the barrels or whatever? Or
I
what do
thought
you
it was
use
the
like-
flag.
No, it's the Legion for, I thought it was the flags on the flag.
Flag.
Flags for the poles, yeah.
Or
No,
What
that's
about
not that one.
Or it's the one in the cemetery for the flag holders.
Yeah, that's,
What, the Legion usually?
Yeah, I don't think so. I
No,
think-
those are the ones for the
Yeah.
flag holes in the cemetery.
Well, we didn't spend anything last year either.
Put those up.
Put
yeah, but
those
I
up.
thought that the Legion sent us a bill.
No, I don't think so.
Like, we'll check on
I
that one
think
though.
Check on that one.
Yeah, because that's what it's always been for.
It's the Legion sent the bill for the flag.
The cemetery paid it, and Janet Brown came in to.
Oh, so,
It's okay.
where does the
We'll
fireworks
leave that
come
one.
out of?
The what?
That's a separate
That's
warrant.
Fireworks is
Separate
Separate warrant
warrant.
article? Yeah, that's
So
right.
conservation, if you flip the last page, is up $9 total.
Wow.
Economic development, I think we've left $50 as a placeholder.
Mhm.
The ambulance billing service, we increased to $800 because of the higher collections, or by $800 to 8,000. And then your debt service is what it is, it's your payments. And then the same thing with capital outlay is your payments, so there's your bottom line. We still have things to talk about, but
I think that number is pretty reflective of that, the total increase, you know, of total operating budget, I think is a lot of reflection of wages, FICA, and,
right, and we took 11 off it.
oh yeah.
We added some to it, so
It took
we'll
so
look
long,
at it.
yeah, so I
Right.
mean, it's not gonna,
So Saturday is just going to be budget.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
When do you,
I thought we were gonna have a non-public about
Right, but we're gonna do
Yeah,
a budget. and
budget.
then
we tackling any warrant articles then, or we see what our time is like?
We can see what our time is like.
Yeah, I think we'll be probably surprised. Our time will be good.
Mm-hmm.
We can start talking about warrant articles.
I mean, I could put together a real draft. And
Yeah.
then, you know, typically I pull over last year's and go down through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even if it's just a listing, so, you know.
Of-
if we can
yeah,
work
so we
on
know,
wording
right.
later, so we can go right down through, see what the CIP articles are and where they'd fall. And,
Yep.
you know, we'll wait until Saturday and see what.
Okay. All right. Do you have any more questions for Beth or Bob before they take off for the budget part?
No.
Yeah, good
No.
job.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions on what we were talking about?
More of a comment than a question on, Fire Chief was talking about rewriting the warrant article to approve equipment in the ambulance thing. I've been in town for over 33 years, and it seems like it's much easier to get 30 grand in and get it passed for like Jaws of Life, just for an example, than it is to get $500,000 for a fire truck. That's just food for thought. That seems the way the trend, you've been here longer than I have. Haven't you?
She's 29.
You have, I know you have, Tom has too. Jan has.
Well,
but
to Boston.
I've been here, I was here before you were born, Rick.
Oh, I know.
Me too.
It's just food for thought.
I feel young.
Both
Look
be.
at how easy it's gonna take to get things passed. It's much easier to get a smaller one passed
Mhm.
than $500,000 or 30,000. It's a lot easier to ballot.
Okay.
Not that I'm against what you're saying, the theory is okay. The problem is getting it done. That's all.
Okay. All right, thank you guys.
Get a new door on the back of your truck, chief, so your turnout gear doesn't get full of snow.
That's in 19's budget.
Wow.
Okay, minutes.
Saturday, is that just like tonight? That,
Just budget is not, we're not gonna do all this other stuff.
no, no, but I'm saying it's open to the finance committee.
Oh, yeah.
Or is that-
It's an open meeting, yeah.
Oh, okay, all right.
They're always open.
I don't
Yeah,
want
they
to
have
talk
to
if I
Well, it depends.
7:30 a.m.
That's not what I heard, Jack.
Wanted to see if you were paying attention.
If you come at 6 and open the door, Jack.
I'll be here.
Okay, I didn't see anything on page 1.
The only thing is that,
I did. John Osborne was here, and he's not here up top.
oh,
Oh,
I used a template.
wow.
Use the template. I guess she expects you now to show up.
Now I know where I stand.
Yeah.
Outside.
No, I noticed it after I
weren't sitting-
posted it, and it came
you
up
weren't
with
sitting in
PDF.
here.
I'm like,
I was.
by reading this and by like things from before, when I was sitting out in the audience, as to why the fee was charged or added to or not
Okay.
added to.
Yeah.
I thought that maybe it should reflect the fact that the fees that are charged usually reflect the fee that we are charged.
Yeah, you're,
Where this, we're not being charged a fee for,
okay.
basically, right? Am I correct in that?
Are we
Like
talking
the
bulky
TV
items?
sets
We're
and-
talking bulky items.
Yeah,
Okay.
We don't pay to get rid of them separately from the trash.
exactly,
That's why it was sitting in the
That's what
general
the whole
fund and not the
controversy has
revolving.
right.
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 So if
Okay.
there could just be maybe, there was a sentence that maybe say which, no fee is charged to the town or something like that. So somebody by reading it would know why we did it.
Okay. Well, I
don't know.
didn't bring
I mean,
mine.
am
Somebody
I
else did.
wrong?
No, you're just saying that because we don't pay separately to get rid of the
Right,
bulky items,
right.
it makes it different from the other fee-based items.
Because I always believed we were charged a fee and that's why it was being added.
Well, inevitably we are. It's by the ton.
Well, I know, to take it away, but not an extra fee.
No, not because of what they are specifically.
Exactly.
Yeah, the only thing I would just throw out that I know we've had a resident up there constantly asking about it and talking about a double tax and talking about the idea
Yes.
that it's not a fee that we pay for.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
we can reiterate it. I'm not sure how you want to do that, but I'll gladly let somebody add it if you want.
Where did you have the wording?
Let's see, it's at, which is why fees have been charged on other fee-related items. There's no extra charge or something to that effect. Where was I going with that?
Well, I know what you want to say, and that is
Yeah,
that,
and I think you could put it in one of these sentences. Fees.
how about right after this sentence, it says, he feels it was implemented upon the former director's request, but has not been able to determine the reasoning. And then put a new sentence in there, bulky items are not disposed of separate from the regular trash.
Okay, right,
Would that?
yeah.
Okay.
Then people would understand, I think.
All set on one? Page 2, I just had a couple of additional words. If you go up from the bottom about a quarter of the way, there's this where it's talking coal patch was discussed. And then the board noted that 5,000 is budgeted. That at 5,000, that is budgeted, and I just changed that to has
Right.
always been overspent, and then I added the word and should be increased.
I did too, so eliminated.
Is and put has and then and. Connect that. Anything else on that page?
Yeah, the first paragraph. I just want to change the where it says the 3 bids were. I want to reiterate that the 3 bids were calculated as price per gallon because they were not all submitted bids by gallonage. Some were by the truckload, some were by end of the day, it was price per gallon that was given as a bid for us, but I would just rather say that the 3 bids were calculated as price per gallon as follows.
Okay, got it. Anything else on that page?
Well, the only thing that I had was, I think, like, maybe a third of the way down where job is on the outside,
Job in getting,
in getting everything up to date.
okay.
And then, would it be possible to kind of break it out and have a paragraph for the PD, a paragraph for the chief, and DPW, you know, so
I'll
that
just
they're
put a
not all
paragraph,
running?
sign, and you could just do a return on that.
Okay.
So, where does it break off? Where do we start with the board?
Chief Vizina on,
So Chief Fazina would be paragraph 2.
yeah,
So we got paragraph 1,
and then
Paragraph two.
DPW Director Knapp, right there.
Mm-hmm.
so a little double P thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yep.
Anything on the next page? Anything on that myself? Page 3. Anybody?
Nope.
The very last of the last page,
That should be water instead of water. The need was there, and the funds were there. The last line in public
yeah,
comment.
yeah. There's a line in here that says, transparency and collaboration are needed for both the board and finance committee to work together for the good of the town. But working behind the scenes by checking on information that is not provided is unnecessary and causes disruption. It isn't credited to anybody. It sort of becomes kind of an editorial comment without that. So if we agree with it, I put the board agreed that, and then went into that. All right, so it wasn't, is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
Well, halfway up that paragraph,
Okay.
the finance committee explained the coverage.
Was explained
Yeah.
the coverage,
Yeah, that was explained, doesn't,
which at a,
had explained the coverage. The finance committee.
how about was explained about the coverage? Or the
Yeah.
details of the coverage?
Explained by the town administrator is what I had, the coverage explained by the town administrator at a prior meeting.
How about the cover, the, yeah, this is getting.
Yeah.
How about was informed of the coverage?
Yes,
Okay?
yes, perfect.
I don't know if it's perfect, but
Well,
it's okay.
for what this is.
Okay. So we good?
Sounds good.
Move to approve the minutes of December 4th as
Amended.
amended. Yeah, I'm just thinking you're already so far into the game. Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Manifest.
I don't know, this is the first time I opened the
Yeah,
box.
most of
Because you'll be called to come back if you
No,
don't.
I won't, because I didn't look at it this time.
Okay, this is gonna look big, but take into account, those of you watching out there, that includes the Hillsborough County tax. So we've got Board of the Treasurer to sign the payroll and accounts payable checks for December 14th, including the following manifests. The weekly payroll is $53,453.70. Accounts payable is $132,039.43. There's a supplemental accounts payable of $184,297.21, and that's a payment to Tombstone Building Project, highway building project. And then there's a accounts payable for $1,033,526, which goes to the Hillsborough County, to Hillsborough County. So our total is $1,403,316.34.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Was that 5-4? How many?
Aye.
5-0?
And Naomi, that brings us to you.
Yeah, the roof leak in this building, I haven't been able to catch up with the contractor that went up there originally, but I did speak to the gentleman originally that said no. And he doesn't think that going up there and filling around the window is going to help. He also feels that where those little half-moon windows are, that we have to do something with the roof. At the, not now, but, you know, in the spring, we'll have to look at the, how the finishes and how those are tied into the shingles, because we can probably, you know, block the light and stuff from coming in, but I think it was truly the driving rain, because we've had it rain and it hasn't been in the building before. So, I mean, I'll gladly try to continue to get the contractor to come back and fill that in, but at the same time, I'm just telling you that we've got another opinion that it should be on the up of the roof versus, that's just one person's opinion.
But he hasn't been up there, right?
He has not been up there, and he did not climb up there today. I'm just giving you, that's really food for thought. I'll pursue with the one that gave us the price. Joint loss, we have a meeting scheduled for Wednesday, December 13th at 3 o'clock. Budget session, I'll post, we have a reminder for Saturday. And then, I guess, at the same time, I will give you the answer to the question you asked about repurposing where we are now, from town council. Let me find my answer.
You did, you signed the other one.
Concerning the building and where we are. Hang on till I find it.
Take out the signature.
So basically what she had said, we could do was, we can repurpose the building. The building's ours, we took for taxes, we can certainly repurpose it. There's a little bit of a snag that comes into play if he wants to come back and purchase it before the 3 years is up. If he comes back and wants to purchase it, then he has that first right. The other thing that you'd asked me to ask about was in selling the building, if you decide not to repurpose it and just want to put it back out on auction. The board sets the price for the auction, so the money that you put into it, you start the starting price. So, you know, for instance, if the taxes were 80 grand and you put 20 in it, the lowest you would go could be 100. So you have that right of recovering. The only place it gets sticky is if it's in between the 3 years. So what we can do, just like you would do with anyone else, is if you decide some of these ones that we want to throw out to bid in for auction in April. If you throw those out there and they're not been 3 years, there's some process that has to go through by giving them a letter, giving them a time frame in which they have to buy it back. So at the same time, we could include that to this same person and say, in 90 days, if you want it redeemed back to you, here's your notification. You have to bring everything current before we put more money into the building. But we've already put money into the building. That may be lost if it's in between. So if you can recoup your 25, you can repurpose it absolutely, provided he doesn't come back. Now, it's been a year and a half, we still have another year and a half for the 3-year, because it was July of 16, so now we're running up to January of 18, it's gonna be a year and a half.
There isn't any bank involved in the mortgage on
Not, it can't be now, we, once the bank doesn't reply or pay for it, we take over. It does get, you know, if we transfer it back, it's certainly still subject to, you know, whatever liens are on there, somebody could go attach it,
Yeah.
you know.
What about,
I mean,
do we at this board's level have a right to make that decision
For,
keeping the building, or does it have to be a decision made by the?
no, but if you're gonna repurpose it and put more money into it to repurpose it for cold storage, I think it would behoove us not to notify him and say, you know, this is going to be repurposed, the town's going to keep it and provide, unless you come back with and give him a number. Because he owes us all the back taxes, which is fairly hefty.
plus interest. And
Plus interest, plus, you know.
plus whatever we've put into it.
So
That makes
we
sense.
could notify him, and then if the 90 days rolls around, we've done our legal obligation, we can turn around and repurpose it and he can't come back.
I'd do that.
Okay, I understand all that, and it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
The part that I wanted to make sure of is that, can we keep it without going to the voters and getting their approval?
You can keep whatever you take, you can keep.
Yeah, we've already done that.
Right.
We've already taken it and keeping it. I
Yeah.
mean, by tax. by
The only
everything.
obligation you have is him for 3 years. He's the only one that can buy you back from 3 years. You can hold, you don't have to ever put anything out. I know that's not what you wanna do, but you don't have to ever sell anything. You know.
I think they've done that.
No, I'm just saying, but
already.
there's a lot of land only that we end up with, that honestly, you end up with it because it requires, to get a building permit, road maintenance and all these other things that, you know, people just either just didn't do it, or, I mean, there's some land only property. There are some buildings, and we're gonna have to go through the eviction process, but we don't have to put, you can pick and choose what you wanna put out to auction.
I think the first thing we're gonna do that, we're gonna look at the ones that are over the 3 years.
Correct.
And then,
But you
and
could
if there are
even, you
people in
could,
them, then we should
but you
start.
could even do the ones you just did,
Yeah.
and if you want to, there's no illegal way of
I
doing
think-
it, provided you provide
I
proper
think-
notice.
I think the other thing is, I've been involved in that once before on another board, and I think that we should be proactive as far as any place that we've taken
Sure.
back taxes, is that we should have, starting in the spring, is that start the eviction notice, because I mean, if these people are on that property, something happens, we're ultimately liable for them. If they
Yeah, we've
are-
added them to our property,
Yeah,
but
we're the
we've added them
ones.
to our
That
list.
doesn't mean that they have to have any insurance, so I mean, they take a dive, slip and fall,
And
basically
there's
it's on our
some that are
property.
still living there, not paying their taxes, but still paying their mortgage.
Yeah, which
I don't know how they do that, but,
I think that's something that we have to look at. It's probably
yeah,
get with
and I'm
Laura
gonna
and do.
reach, the gentleman never did call me back after Thanksgiving, so I have a note to call him.
Yeah.
Cause I've either lost my number or he's got others, but I do wanna talk to him about, cause there wasn't a cost to us.
Yeah.
Is to do it, and he's got an attorney on staff and everything.
Yeah, I think that's
So,
well.
I think they get a percentage of whatever they sell, but.
Well, which most of them do.
Right.
Right.
So,
Okay.
so I don't have any more than that. I don't know, did you wanna go into non-public tonight, or you wanna do it Saturday?
For,
Well, I mean, we talked about evaluation, we talked about contract, but it's 9:30, whatever you wanna do. You can do it when you're fresh on Saturday, it doesn't bother me, but,
I truthfully haven't read through your
Me either.
self-eval yet.
Not yet. I know, I'm bad.
that's fine, like I
So-
said.
I've got to do that, and then, I don't know, board members, in the past, when I was chair, I wrote a draft, and then people added, took away from it, and sometimes people beforehand would give me ideas they want to include, and sometimes after the fact, they'd read it and say, I don't agree with this, or whatever. How do you want to go about it?
It's fine with me. Same way you did before.
Write one, and then bounce it off you?
Well,
and
you all
go
got
from
my
there?
self-evaluation.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I haven't read it, but,
Okay, no, I'm just saying you all got it.
I have it,
so-
yes.
or do you want to give me some ideas and then go from there.
Write it and bounce it off us, and we'll go from there.
Is that all right? Okay. I'll try to get that done within a week.
I don't know.
And we gotta decide whether we wanna hire you again, little things like that.
Little things.
Then you can have your budget.
Wow. Wow. Just like that.
So this is good time.
Well, I'm just saying that, you know, I've kind of got my ideas in my mind for contract ideas.
How about,
So,
if we
let
take
me
a
ask you
little
this.
time on Saturday?
Yeah, I can kind of give you where I'm going and the highlights, because have you guys got a copy of the old contract? Or the one that's expiring?
I probably do somewhere in the.
I think we,
Didn't
didn't I pass that on to people?
I know I gave you a copy.
Did you give me a paper copy, or?
Yep.
Okay.
Because I only had it in PDF, so I printed it out, but, I mean,
Yes. We have
no, I didn't have it in PDF. I can make it in PDF and share it with you, but, because I took it right out of the file.
Sure, we had it in front of us here.
No,
because
you and I, Tom. No, you and I, Tom.
There were only like 2 or 3 things that were outdated in it, like the
Right.
reference
The
to
education,
educational
yeah.
funds, things like that. Only a couple of
I mean, I can take
I'd
the
like
one
a
out
hard
of the,
copy of it.
what's
If
that?
you- I'd like a hard copy if
What if you took it in PDF and then emailed it to us all?
Okay.
Because then it would be
Fresh.
garbage from change.
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay with you?
With me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want me to throw in the areas of change? Let you have some food for thought?
If you have areas of change, and you
Yeah.
want us to be
Yeah.
fed on thought?
Well, I'm just saying, there's, you know, it's called a negotiation for a reason, so
Right.
throw you out my first debate. See where we go.
As they say in the fishing trade, put the chum in the water, see if anything bites at it.
Wow.
That's awesome.
See if we come back to bite.
Okay, we don't have anybody for public comment.
No.
Wow.
That's yeah.
No, I'm,
Any other business tonight?
no.
If not, we'll see everybody on Saturday morning.
I'd like
A
to.
second.
What the hell?
I figured you were just gonna go aye.
While it's fresh in my memory, I just want a short 91C, under C.
Okay, so he just moved.
Yeah.
So go with the-
I'll second it.
Aye.
I
I,
while it's fresh in my head.